reckless and scattershot and changing day to day with what he wants to do. And so I think it's a combination of all of those things. And we've heard explanations range from, well, the Israeli strike, and we may have been hit in a counter strike, which is not how you should be making decisions around American deployment of American service members on American national security grounds, and so many more that I'm sure the general and others can talk about. But I think it comes down to, at the core, the people in charge in this administration and their lack of competence to do the jobs they've been trusted to do.
I'd like to add to this that what we are seeing is an inexperienced group of leaders in the administration who, quite frankly, do not care about the American people. And I know the far right will not like me to hear these words, but it's evidenced by the tens of thousands of Americans who were literally abandoned that I saw, and I was one of them. Is disappointing. It is full evidence that this has nothing to do with secrecy. It has to do with the administration only and about what they think is right. Not even to be able to be a partner with our coalition allies or in Europe. Everyone was caught off guard, and it's very, very disturbing about how this is acting more and more like a dictatorship, independent of Congress, working on their own to make decisions that are in their best interests. By the way, comment about the oil. This is not about oil to the United States. This is about money that's going into Saudi Arabia and then going into the pockets of the administration directly. And I'm being so bold as to say that, but you can track the money about where it's going. It's all about money. It's not about the American people. Unequivocally, this is not in the best interest of the United States or its citizens. And by the way, I'm one of the first people to say that Iran should never have nuclear. And guess what? He threw out the treaty we had, and it was something that was verifiable, and it was something, but it didn't have his name on it, and his ego let it get in the way of throwing that out. So I just would say to all of you that are there, this is an administration that is naive. They are stretching for straws, and they are not thinking strategically the world stage. They are only looking about how to keep themselves in power.
All right, so once again, we do like to bring you both sides of the aisle here on Live Now from Fox, listening into some Democrats there as they were having this discussion on Iran, as they're taking a live there at the White House. Now, we do want to stay on the topic of the Middle East here, and we want to talk about gas prices because they are increasing across the country amid concerns that conflict in the Middle East will last a long time. The national average price for gas, 5.3 cents, its highest amount since September 11th, 2024, and the national average price is 26.8 cents more than 1 week ago, 36 cents higher than 1 month ago, and 14.4 cents greater than 1 year ago. Now, of note here, seasonal factors are also contributing to these higher prices. Refineries are beginning to transition to their more expensive summer blend, and the demand typically increases as we near spring break travel. But how much higher could these gas prices, though? For that, I want to bring in Rick Heidner. He is a gas and energy expert. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. We do appreciate it, Rick.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
This might be a basic question, but can you break down for us why we're seeing this increase in gas prices after we saw these strikes on Iran just about a week ago?
Well, I've been in the business for many, many years, and this happens so many times when there's any kind of conflict or any kind of something happens with a refinery or whatnot, and you get a spike very quickly. And it's usually a spike that's a little bit more than it should be or could be. And then once it gets stabilized, it comes back. I expect the same thing to happen here.
Now, how much of the recent spike in gas prices is really driven by actual supply disruptions versus market fear and speculation?
I think it's mostly fear and speculation. And like I said, there's normally a spike, and sometimes there's a delay in it coming down. But I think that once everybody takes a look at what with the supply that we have, and I think it'll come down, not all the way down until this is over, but I expect when it's all over, we'll be back to $60 to $65 a barrel. But let's remember, what's happening here in the Middle East. I mean, and this is something that will be generational and last for years and years. If we can get stability in the Middle East, and we can stop these people weaponize, oil against us. So, I would ask that U.S. oil industry and the world oil industry take a step back and a breath here and help our president, who has done something so incredible for safety and for the people of the Middle East, for them being terrorized and oil to be weaponized against us. And that would be my request, because this is not a big lift for them to do. They don't have to make it such a tragic thing, expensive. And then also, when it wasn't that long ago, Biden was president, and here where I'm at, I mean, we saw $5 a gasoline, $139 a barrel at the high end. President Trump left office the last time, I remember very distinctly that I looked the day he left, and we were at $2.28 a gallon. We went up to $5 a gallon with Biden, and today in my year we're at $3.59.
Now, Rick, something that keeps coming up in stations here is the Strait of Hormuz. Can you tell us why that narrow waterway is so critical?
A brief history of drinking, presented by BC.
The beer funnel, designed to deliver cheap beer at unbridled velocities. A marvel of engineering, but a nightmare of hygiene. Beer pong, where drinking turned into a sport, highly competitive. So many rules, much glory. Hunch Punch, a sugary alcoholic potluck. No one really knew what was in it, but that was somehow the point. The Toga Party, the perfect pairing of bedsheets and boxed wine. Historically inaccurate, completely unforgettable. Drinking looks a bit different today. Less volume, a glass of wine, an expertly made craft cocktail. I see you there, Brenda.
Our shift ended. So,
Who wants to see the gift shop?
We fight those who wield power to prey on the weak. Beasts who think themselves men. That's what it means to be a great. Remember who you are and let it guide your path. For at the end of it, you will find the essence.
Very short term. But we have to look at it as a world problem, and then a world solution. And again, for the strength of our president and what he's done, there's a cost to have the people of Iran not terrorized and suppressed in a 47-year problem of total domination. It's a small price to pay. Obviously, the human life price is what really is the concern here, and that's what we're doing in a solution. And again, we stabilize in the Middle East. We're stable. We're very stable, unless there's some kind of tanker leak or anything like that. But this is really something. I mean, with our president, how he's really stabilizing the world with oil.
You talked about helping out President Trump. So what role could governments play here? Things like releasing strategic petroleum reserves, encouraging more domestic production. Can governments help out President Trump here to stabilize these prices?
Well, again, we've been building our reserves, and we're not even close to hurting them or touching them, and we can do that. But once again, I really call on the industry to step up and tighten their belts a little bit here, and almost, I'll say, not take advantage of this situation. I think this is not a normal ask, or it's not a normal condition. And I think we need to work together. And I'm talking about the U.S. oil industry, and I'm also talking about the world oil industry. Let's get this done. Let's get these people safe. Let's stabilize oil prices for a very long future. Let's give this president a tremendous amount of credit for what he's done. We still have Venezuela. We're going to benefit tremendously from that too. And we're just in the beginning of that right now. So, long term, it's amazing, what we're going to see. Short term, again, for me, it's the changing of lives, and it's the saving of the lives. So let's get out of this with the least loss of life, and let's give Iran their country back, and let's all work together.
One of my last questions for you here, just tying this back to these gas price concerns from Americans. You're saying that this is not going to be long-lived, but what should people be looking for over the coming weeks here? Because we do know that Operation Epic Fury is set to last a couple of weeks here, potentially even longer. So what are those signs people should be looking out for as they're heading to fill up their gas tank to see whether these prices are actually coming back down?
Well, I think they should be looking at the big picture. And if we have to tighten our belts, or we have to suffer through this for a few weeks or even a month or two, I really want people to look at this really means for us, and means for the United States of America, and really the Middle East region. It's a very small cost, and I think it'll go very quickly. And then you'll have stabilization for an extremely long time, and fair competition, and all of this craziness that could happen will subside, and we'll have something for a very long thing we can count on.
Rick, is there anything else you'd like to add about this before I let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to say one more thing, and it's a little bit off of this, but being a businessman and, waiting such a long time, I mean, we're going to have tremendous growth when we get the interest rates down, maybe another point and a half. And I see that coming, and I'm so excited about that. So when you talk about, something that's happening today, I'm looking so forward what's going to happen tomorrow, and the tremendous growth we're going to have, and the jobs that are going to be created. And again, I've been waiting for our president to get this done. I know he wants to get it done, and our national debt will save tremendous interest on that, and all that is just nothing but all good for us. So I'm 65 years old. I've been in my own for almost 50 years, and there's always those times where we can't do anything, and we're just struggling to pay our bills so badly. And then there's time of growth, and I'm telling you something. We have a spectacular time of growth. So going into my retirement after this big spurt of growth is very exciting.
All right, Rick Heidner, thank you so much for joining us on Live from Fox this morning. We appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it all. Thank you.
Of course. And if you are just joining us on Live Now from Fox, welcome in. My name is Christy Matino. We're stepping away for a commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And come back to live now from Fox. We continue to follow the latest in the Middle East, and I wanted to share this live look. This is one of several we've been bringing you here. This coming out of Beirut. The latest that we know here is the Israel Defense Forces said today that more than 80 Israeli Air Force fighter jets carried out a series of strikes in Iran. Among targets was a university that the IDF has said used by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps to train its officers. Other targets hit in the strikes included ballistic missile storage facilities, underground missile command infrastructure, and launch sites aimed at Israel that were in western and central Iran. Now, we heard from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt just yesterday. She was speaking outside the White House. I wanted to share her comments in case you missed them.
Out here, it's a busy day, as you all know. The president will be meeting with defense contractors here at the White House in a few minutes with Secretary Hegseth. This is a pre-scheduled meeting, and the purpose of it is to talk about the president's aggressive and fierce support for rapidly increasing the ability of U.S. manufacturers to produce American-made weapons, which we know are the best in the world. The president signed an executive order on this earlier this year. This is a long-held policy objective of this administration, and so he'll be speaking directly with these defense contractors. But of course, as the president has maintained, we have more than enough ammunitions, weapons, stockpiles to achieve the objectives of Operation Epic Fury and beyond. After that, you'll be hearing from the president at 4 p.m. in the East Room at the College Sports Roundtable. We have coaches and we have scholars and we have athletes from around the country who will be joining. I know some lawmakers will be up there as well. President, again, a long-sought goal is to fix college sports, and so he'll be holding a roundtable to hear from all of these great people in the this afternoon, and you'll see him up there as well. Why don't we take a few questions? Sure.
Thank you very much. The president said that we're not going through all of this so that we can end up with another Khamenei, and he also said that we can keep this up forever. It means that this current mentality in Iran remains in place. You're going to have to keep doing the fight.
I won't get ahead of the president on broadcasting any timelines. What I will tell you is what President Trump has already laid out, which is that the achievable objectives of Operation Epic Fury we expect to last about 4 to 6 weeks. We are well on our way to achieving those objectives. Annihilating Iran's navy, we know that we've sunk more than 30 Iranian vessels and ships. Their navy has now been deemed combat ineffective. Taking out the ballistic missile threat that Iran posed to the United States and our troops and bases in the region, we have done a tremendous job. The United States military has done a tremendous job at achieving objective thus far. Just 6 days in, the retaliatory ballistic missile strikes from Iran are down 90%. Of course, assuring Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon as well, and significantly weakening their proxies in the region, which we know are responsible for the deaths of Americans. And we've seen Hezbollah and the Houthis hardly putting up a course of the last 6 days. Ultimately, the president has made it very clear he wants to take out the threat of Iran to the United States, and Operation Epic Fury is well on its way to doing that. As for the of Iran, as the president has pointed to, of course it's in the best interest of the United States of America for Iran to no longer be led by a radical terrorist regime that chants death to America and is lying to the United States and the world about their secret ambition to possess a nuclear bomb. President Trump does not want to see that. He wants to take an interest in pursuing who the next leader of the Iranian country is going to be, and that has yet to be seen, and the president is discussing it and deliberating it. Kristen.
But you just said on Fox that it doesn't really matter if Russia is giving Iran information about military assets. Why doesn't it matter if U.S. military is put in danger by Russia? Is that what the president believes as well?
What I meant, and thank you for giving me a chance to make it very clear, is that it clearly is not making a difference with respect to the military operations in Iran, because we are completely decimating them. As I said earlier, we've taken out nearly 30 of their ships. Their navy has been deemed combat ineffective. 90% reduction in ballistic missile retaliatory strikes against the United States and our Gulf Arab and partners in the region. So, of course, we are achieving the military objectives of this operation, and that is to continue because the United States military is the best and most lethal fighting force in the world. Sure, go ahead, Benny.
Can you confirm if U.S. has taken full control over the airspace in Iran, like it's been reported these past couple of weeks? Trump said within hours, within days. Can you confirm anything along those lines?
Yes, we are well on our way to doing so.
Caroline, has the president's faith in Russia to cut a peace deal with Ukraine been shaken by the knowledge that Russia is apparently supplying intelligence to Iran in this conflict?
I think the president would say that peace is still an achievable objective with respect to the Russia-Ukraine war. You saw Special Envoy Witkoff put out a tweet yesterday announcing a new prisoner exchange between both Russia and Ukraine. So it's something this administration still wants to see, and something I know the president will continue to work on.
Has he expressed any frustration to Putin about this intelligence?
I'll let the president speak on that directly. Mary.
What does the president mean when he calls for unconditional surrender? Is he saying that the regime has to fully relinquish control?
What the president means is that when he, as commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, determines that Iran no longer poses a threat to the United States and the goals of Operation Epic Fury has been fully realized, then Iran will essentially be in a place of unconditional surrender. Whether they say it themselves or not, frankly, they don't have a lot of people to say that for them, because the United States and the state of Israel have completely wiped out more than 50 leaders of the former terrorist regime, including the supreme leader himself. Monica?
Thank you, Caroline. The president had a July 4th deadline for the One Big Beautiful Bill. Does he see a deadline for the Save America Act, as I know that's a plea of his to get passed?
As soon as possible, I know the president would say. This is a huge priority for the president. It remains one. I know he has added on some priorities to the Save America Act in recent days, namely no transgender transition surgeries for minors. We are not going to tolerate the mutilation of young children in this country, and no men in women's sports. And the president putting all of these priorities together, it speaks to just how common sense they are. These are all common sense priorities of this president that are backed by the vast majority of Americans, and he wants Republicans to act on them as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Ken Paxton laid out some conditions yesterday, saying that would drop out of the race if Senate leadership on the Republican side agreed to getting rid of the filibuster, for example. What are the president's thoughts on that?
I won't get ahead of the president on the Texas Senate race. I know it's of great interest to everyone. I'm no longer his political spokesperson. I'm a government spokesperson, so I'll let him speak on that directly.
You elaborated on the president's decision to tap Markwayne Mullin as the next DHS secretary. Can you talk a little bit about the rationale for the choice, why Mullin was the best candidate in his eyes, your message to congressional Democrats who continue to keep the DHS unfunded?
Yeah, well, Senator Markwayne Mullin has been a strong friend of the president and a big supporter of the president's immigration policies. Not only that, he's exceptionally talented, qualified, and well respected by his peers on Capitol Hill from both sides of the aisle. So we look forward to his expeditious confirmation, and I know the White House will be working with our counterparts in the Senate to make that happen as quickly as possible.
The president has said he wants to be involved in Iran's future. He has also called the son of Supreme Leader Khamenei a lightweight, and he has also said that United States strikes have taken out the potential candidates. So does the United States now have any candidates, or looking at candidates who may lead Iran for the future?
I know there's a number of people that our intelligence agencies and the United States government are looking at, but I won't get further on that. Sure.
Is the president satisfied with the pace of the investigation into whether the U.S. military did hit that Iranian school? Is the White House concerned that this was the United States?
Again, as I was briefing 2 days ago, I don't have any updates with respect to the investigation. I would expect those to come from the gun. Sure, Haley.
That the U.S. was up.
That same bold Louisiana flavor y'all love about our chicken?
It's nice.
Yeah, we did that to crispy Alaskan flounder and butterfly too.
Icon has the tools pros trust. From wrenches to storage solutions, diagnostic tools, and more. Built to last and backed for life. Pick yours up, Icon. Tool truck quality, unbeatable value. Only at Harbor Freight.
This president lives in the real world, and with respect to MAGA, President Trump is the leader of MAGA. He's the creator of the MAGA movement. And there's nothing more America first than taking out terrorists who have maimed and killed our own servicemen and women, who chant death to America, and who pose a threat to the land. And so President Trump is a leader of the Peace Through Strength foreign policy. He attempted peace through diplomacy exhaustively and extensively with the rogue Iranian regime. And so they have been struck with the strength and the sheer might and will of the United States Armed Forces. and President Trump has proven he's a man of his word. If you go back and look, not just over the past year as president, but in his first term and in many years in his private life as well, when he has said that the Iranian regime can never obtain a nuclear bomb, well, now he's acting on it, and he has the courage to do what so many presidents in the past did not. We'll see you guys later.
And that was White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt just yesterday speaking to reporters outside of the White House. Now you're taking a look there at Beirut once again, because we do know that since the first day of the renewed fighting, the IDF has carried out over 200 strikes across Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah's military, media, and financial infrastructure, as well as operatives from the affiliated networks. That's according to an analysis by the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. I wanted to share with you a post here from the IDF. Well, really, it's a video that they shared a bit earlier this morning speaking about Hezbollah.
Iran has been launching missiles to 12 different nations across the region since the beginning of Operation Roaring Lion. Together with the United States, we are ending the regional threat posed by Iran. 60% of the regime's missile launchers and large amounts of missile stockpiles have been neutralized. Around 80% of Iran's air defense systems have been neutralized as well, allowing for aerial superiority over the skies of Iran. Our actions, alongside American operations, have brought an extreme decrease in the Iranian regime's attack. Iran has proven once again that it is not only a threat to Israel, it is a threat to global stability. Iran's global threat is not limited to Iran's territory. A few days ago, Hezbollah launched an attack against Israel in solidarity with the terror regime. Hezbollah has once again proven that they prioritize the Iranian regime over the people of Lebanon. Since then, they have launched dozens of rockets and UAVs towards Israeli communities. Like the Patriot in Tehran, Hezbollah deliberately targets civilians. We warned Hezbollah not to join this fight. We made it clear that they should not endanger the Lebanese people on behalf of a regime hundreds of miles away. They chose to ignore that warning. In response, the IDF has been striking Hezbollah military targets across Lebanon. Additionally, we have taken defensive measures, deploying troops in the border area in southern Lebanon, creating a forward defensive posture. So what's the deal with these points? Here, you can see the northern border. Here's Israel, and here's Lebanon. From these areas, Hezbollah terrorists carried out attacks on Israeli civilians the day after October 7th massacre, forcing an entire region in Israel to be evacuated. We won't let that happen again. In recent days, Hezbollah has extended their attacks against Israel. As a result, IDF soldiers have been injured in the northern border. If our soldiers weren't there, this fire, and even worse, would have been directed at our civilians in the north. Their actions, Hezbollah's actions, prove, said time and time again, Hezbollah is still a dangerous force present in southern Lebanon. Iran built a regional network of terror, spreading to Lebanon to threaten and destabilize the Middle East. Together with our allies, we are dismantling that network.
And that was once again a video message from the IDF as they were speaking on Hezbollah. But we've also heard from President Trump speaking on Iran. He shared this to Truth Social. As he said, Iran, just being beat to hell, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors and promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. This promise was only made because of the relentless Israeli attack. They were looking to take over and rule the Middle East. It is the first time that Iran has ever lost in thousands of years to surrounding Middle Eastern countries. They have said, "Thank you, President Trump." And I have said, "You're welcome." Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East. They are instead the loser of the Middle East and will be for many decades until they surrender or likely completely collapse. Today, Iran will be hit very hard, under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death because of Iran's bad behavior or areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. Once again, the latest there from President Trump as he shared to Truth Social. And just for some context there, the Iranian president apologized today to neighboring countries attacked by Iran, adding that future attacks will only take place in response to an attack. According to the Associated Press, this was a quote there saying, "I should apologize to the neighboring countries that were attacked by Iran on my own behalf. From now on, they should not neighboring countries or fire missiles at them unless we are attacked by those countries. I think we should solve this through diplomacy." The Iranian president made the apology during a pre-recorded televised speech on Saturday after Iran launched repeated strikes on Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Oman. The decision came after the Temporary Leadership Council talked with the country's armed forces amid alleged miscommunication in the ranks following the deaths of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and other leaders. He also stated during that speech that the United States' demand for an unconditional surrender is, quote, a dream that they should take to their grave. Now, a bit earlier today, we did hear from President Trump as he was speaking at the Shield of America Summit in Doral, Florida. And Trump said that the U.S. would keep the war with Iran to a minimum, referencing the deaths of 6 U.S. service members. But the president added that Operation Epic Fury was going to be something of service that we're really providing not for the Middle East before the war. He concluded that statement by saying these were sick people, very sick people. So just hearing from President Trump here today. And if you did miss the Shield of Americas, we are going to air that in the 12 p.m. Eastern Time hour, sharing President Trump's comments here with you. We are away for another commercial break on Live Now from Fox. It is 11:27 on the East Coast, 8:27 on the West Coast. Stay with us. You're watching Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christy Matino. I do want to share with you some comments that were made just yesterday as Iran's UN ambassador said on Friday that at least 1,300 Iranian civilians have died so far in the conflict with Israel and the U.S., and that thousands more have been injured. Speaking to reporters at the United Nations in New York, he asserted that the U.S. had deliberately targeted civilian infrastructure while Iran had targeted military sites and civilians. The U.S. and Israel have said opposite in this case. I wanted to share with you some comments there from the United Nations just yesterday.
Good afternoon, everybody. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I wish to provide a brief update on the deliberate, unprovoked, and unlawful war of aggression launched by the United States and the Israeli regime against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Today marks the 7th consecutive day of this large-scale military aggression, which began on 28 February. The United States and Israeli regime continue their brutal and massive attack against Iran and the Iranian people unabatedly and without pause. These attacks are indiscriminate, They deliberately target civilians and civilian infrastructure across my country. The United States and Israel have demonstrated that they recognize no red line in committing their crimes. Iranian cities are being attacked indiscriminately. Densely populated residential areas, critical civilian infrastructure are deliberately targeted. The act constitute clear war crimes and crime against humanity. Yesterday, the United States Secretary of War openly admitted that the United States is using 500, 1,000 and 2,000 pounds bomb with massive destructive power against Iranian cities. They are dropping 2,000-pound bomb in densely populated civilian areas. Their intention is clear: to terrorize civilians, massacre innocent people, and cause maximum destruction and suffering. Their claims that they have targeted only military objectives is a lie and baseless. Fact on the ground prove otherwise. Despite our repeated communication to the Security Council calling for an immediate end to this criminal war, the Council has remained silent, has chosen to turn a blind eye to these grave violations, despite its primary responsibility under the Charter of the United Nations to maintain international peace and security. According to the latest report of the Iranian Red Crescent Society, at least 1,332 civilians, including women and children, have their lives so far. Thousands more have been injured, and the number continues to rise. Airports, schools, hospitals, healthcare centers, residential buildings, port facilities, mosques, diplomatic police headquarters, and other civilian infrastructure have been deliberately targeted and destroyed. On the first day of aggression, a girls' elementary school in Minab in southern was struck. 175 schoolgirls were martyred in that attack. More than half of the victims could only be identified through DNA testing. So far, more than 180 Iranian children across the country have lost their lives as a result of this criminal war waged by the United States and the Israeli regime. Many more have been also injured. More than 20 schools have been damaged. Hospitals, Red Crescent facilities, and emergency response centers have also been repeatedly targeted. Till now, 13 healthcare facilities have been attacked. Yesterday, several civilian sports and recreational facilities in Tehran and other cities were deliberately targeted. The Azadi Stadium and large parts of the Azadi complex were destroyed. The Behzad Sport Complex and the National Judo Team training camp were also heavily damaged. Israeli missile strike further hit several municipal recreational facilities in southern Tehran, including the Azadegan Water Park, stadium, and sports hall. The municipality building also struck. In another attack, a sport hall in Lamar, Fars province, was bombed with female volleyball players were training inside. More than 18 female athletes were martyred and around 100 others were injured. Many Iranian athletes, including internationally recognized competitors in wrestling, judo, and taekwondo, have been martyred in those attacks. Sports and recreational facilities are civilians' objects protected under international humanitarian law. The deliberate targeting constitutes war crimes. Despite its constant claims of defending freedom of navigation, the United States committed a dangerous act of aggression at sea on 4th of March, nearly 2,000 miles from Iran's shore. The Iranian frigate Dena, which was on the goodwill visit and upon invitation was with the Indian Navy and carrying around 130 sailors, was attacked in international waters. Nearly 100 Iranian sailors were martyred. The U.S. committed a war crime. This heinous and unlawful attack constitutes a grave violation of the law and the fundamental principle of freedom of navigation. We reiterate our call on the Security Council and Secretary General to condemn the aggression, war crimes, and crime against humanity that are being committed by the United States and the Israeli regime against our people, to force the aggressor to put an immediate end to all crimes and military attack against Iran and against civilian infrastructure, to ensure accountability for this grave violation of international humanitarian law and war crimes. We continue to exercise our inherent right to self-defense under Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations until this aggression and this barbaric attack stop. Our response is lawful, necessary, and proportionate. Let me emphasize once again, Iran targets only military objectives of the aggressors. We don't target civilians. We don't target the interests of neighboring states. We are currently investigating the allegation regarding a strike on non-military sites. Our initial assessment indicates that some of these incidents have resulted from the...
It starts with self-defense. Feel I can feel good about. I'm gonna need it. I'm training for life. From after-school pickups to meal prep to a 12-hour night shift. I don't have time to get ready. I've got to stay ready.
Dawn patrol start with Celsius. I got a whole day to seize. First it's cardio, then it's a race against the clock. Refuel. I've got 48 to do in 24.
It's 4:49 a.m. Grab a Celsius, lock in. I've got a goal to hit and a deck to conquer. A party to be the life of, and all the essential energy I need to do it.
Charter of the United Nations. Iran is a sovereign and independent state. It does not accept and will never allow any foreign power to interfere in its internal affairs. Our constitution is clear. The selection of Iran's leadership will take place strictly in accordance with our constitutional procedures and solely by the will of the Iranian people without any foreign interference. We call on all member states to condemn this aggression, war crimes, and take urgent action to stop criminal war against the Iranian people, a war that poses a serious threat to regional and international peace and security. The Security Council must act now, firmly, clearly, and without delay. Failure to act will have catastrophic consequences. Today it is Iran. Tomorrow it could be any other member states. Thank you.
And that was Iran's UN envoy speaking just today on the war there. That coming as President Trump demanded Iran's unconditional surrender on Friday and said its new supreme leader must be acceptable after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed on the war's first day. President Trump also added that he must have a say in that selection. Now, I also wanted to bring this post here to you. This is just coming in from the IDF within the past hour here. It is accompanied by an illustration video that we are working to get for you here, and I'll bring that to you. We'll get it. But this post, once again, coming in within the hour here, this is from the IDF. It's saying the IDF dismantled the Air Defense Situation Room of the IRGC Air Force, responsible for the aerial situational assessment and to defend Iran's airbase. Going on to say, additionally, the Israeli Air Force struck air defense systems, site used to manufacture and launch ballistic missiles, command centers, storage facilities, and additional structures. Once we get that video in for you here, of course, I'll bring it to you on Live Now from Fox, but I did want to share that post here with you. We are going to step away for a commercial break. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be right back. to Live Now from Fox. I did want to share this post here with you if you are just tuning in. We brought this to you before the break, but we are learning here from the IDF as they are saying they have dismantled the Air Defense Situation Room of the RGC Air Force, responsible for the aerial situational assessment and to defend Iran's airspace. You can see to the left-hand side there is a still shot of a video. We actually do have that to bring you now. This is an illustration, an animation video that they did share with that post here. Going on to say, additionally, the Israeli Air Force struck air defense systems, a site used to manufacture and launch ballistic missiles, command centers, storage facilities, and additional structures. Again, you can see that video there on your screen as we're bringing you this news within the past hour here that the IDF dismantled the Air Defense Situation Room of the IRGC, responsible for the aerial situational assessment and to defend Iran's airspace. Now, we've been continuing to follow developments here throughout the morning on Live Now from Fox. A little bit earlier today, Israel had said its Air Force struck key Iranian regime military infrastructure in Iran. And according to the IDF, more than 80 jets struck targets in Tehran and central Iran, going on to say these strikes degrade the Iranian regime's ability to fire at Israeli civilians. The IDF said it struck a university as well, which it described as an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps training and assembly compound. The military also saying it targeted ballistic missile storage facilities, underground missile command infrastructure, and launch sites aimed at Israel. And developments coming in here I wanted to share this with you as well. Fox News. We're hearing from the State Department as they are saying today that more than 28,000 American citizens have returned to the U.S., from the Middle East since the start of Operation Epic Fury. The department said the figures do not include Americans who safely relocated to other countries or those who have left the Middle East and are on their way to the United States. The department said it had completed over a dozen charter flights to evacuate Americans from the Middle East. Additionally, the department said that while flight availability was improving, it would ramp up flights and ground transport operations depending on the security situation. So once again, that coming in here from the State Department, as we now know, more than 28,000 American citizens have returned to the United States from the Middle East. A bit earlier on here today, we did hear from my colleague Josh Breslow as he spoke to Congressman Pat Harrigan about all of this, and I wanted to share that interview with you now.
I do want to talk much more about where everything stands here as we get reaction from both sides of the aisle. We do want to bring in right now Congressman Pat Harrigan, a Republican who represents North Carolina's 10th Congressional District, and he serves there on the House Armed Services Committee. Thank you so much, Congressman, for taking the time to be here on this Saturday.
Well, good morning, Josh. Thanks for having me with you.
Course. And first off, I want to go back a week to the start of Operation Epic Fury. As all of this starts to unfold, you're, of course, as I mentioned, on the House Armed Services Committee. Explain to me what's going through your mind as you kind of get the hear that all of this has happened and you start to see the images coming out of there.
Well, the first question was, did they end up getting Khomeini? Because certainly he was both the political and the military top-line objective in this. And I think it became clear very quickly that President Trump would not have authorized the movement into Iran or the strikes if he didn't have Khomeini dead to rights. And that just avoids a repeat of the type of intervention that we've had in the Middle East in the past, where we went after bin Laden and chased the guy for 10 years, where we went after Saddam Hussein and we chased him for many, many, many months. And there was just a failure to actually accomplish the top line strategic objectives. Beyond that, I think the president and his administration laid out very clearly what the remaining objectives are, and that's degrading their ability to launch missiles, to actually produce ballistic missiles and drones, taking out their navy so they can't close the Strait of Hormuz, and making sure that the Iranian regime is weak to the point that they cannot export terrorism around the world like they have, as they have continued to choose chaos over commerce, despite all of the West's efforts to move forward with the Abraham Accords and seek peace in the Middle East. I think we're finally on the cusp of that now, and it's a very exciting prospect.
And what you're looking at there on your screen, that's coming in this morning from U.S. Central Command as they say that U.S. forces have struck over 3,000 targets in the first week of Operation Epic Fury. Say they are not slowing down. And of course, we heard from President Trump a bit earlier on this morning on Truth Social as he said that things there will pick up. And his exact a bit earlier is that today, Iran will be hit very hard. Now, as you watch, Congressman, this all kind of play out, we know that many Democrats came together and they said that they wanted to pass a war powers resolution. So what are your thoughts overall on your Democrat colleagues there on the other side of the aisle trying to push that forward?
Well, unfortunately, my Democratic colleagues are playing politics and they're not focused on the national security of our country. Once the president makes it to go, the United States is committed. Republicans aren't committed. Democrats aren't committed. We are all committed as American citizens. And the only thing that matters is winning and making sure that our troops have everything that they need in order to win so that they can get home safely. That's not what our Democratic colleagues have done. We actually shot down their war powers resolution earlier this week on Thursday. And look, that might be a different situation if it happens 60 days from now. The president has 60 days to prosecute this. And if we're still in somewhat of an unknown area, I expect that vote to change. But it's appropriate to have that vote towards the 60 days, not at the very beginning. The only thing we need to be doing right now is making sure that we win.
Your thoughts, and you kind of touched on this broadly off the top here, but what are your thoughts on the potential for boots on the ground there in Iran? Is that something that you've really thought about?
Yes, it's something I've thought about, and that needs to be a line. The president should not put American boots on the ground. I don't think it's a good idea. Not a single veteran of the global war on terror that I know thinks it's a good idea, and I have not talked to a single constituent in the 10th District of North Carolina who wants American boots on the ground for some type of extended duration in Iran. That just doesn't make any sense. Now, look, there are some things where we might need to leverage some special operations to go in, for instance, seizing nuclear material that is buried deep within, some bunkers or somewhere. That may, end up coming on the table. But I think any type of long-term prevention where we have conventional American boots on the ground is something that the Americans don't want to see here.
Any maybe misunderstandings, disinformation? As we know, there's a lot that goes around on social media. Everyone shares it and they just instantly believe it. So any misinformation, disinformation that you want to make sure people fully understand and get right?
Yeah, there is actually a lot of misinformation and disinformation going around, and largely that's due to the influence of artificial intelligence and making things seem sometimes like they're not. You've seen this play out with Iran and its proxies. Certainly the Russians are helping out kind of spread a false message of Iranian successes in this conflict. Let me be very, very clear. We are actually ahead of schedule where we thought we were going to be in prosecuting this conflict. We are in an incredible position. Our troops have done an absolutely phenomenal job in prosecuting this conflict and making sure that we are systematically knocking down the strategic objectives that we set out to achieve, while our political class is making sure that we don't see mission creep in this either. That's the last thing we want to see. We want to see everything tight. That's exactly what's happening right now. And on the continuum of outcomes, I just want everybody to know America's already winning, because the best case scenario is we actually get a different regime that has a different philosophy and thought process on how to interact with the world. The worst case scenario is that we end up with somebody who's just like Ayatollah Khomeini. So don't get worse from where we already are. He's gone. We could still have a regime that hates America, hates the West, is still working against the strategic interests of the United States, is still exporting. That's the worst case scenario, but we've already set them back 5 years. And so we're already winning here. The question is, how much is America going to win on this continuum?
And of course, we've been asking folks at home all throughout the morning here over the last couple hours, do you support or oppose the U.S. war with Iran? Folks can scan that QR on the top right-hand side of your screen. It'll take you over to livenowfox.com/connect. As of right now, there are thousands of votes that have been cast, and it's about the same as what we saw earlier in the week. 89%, an overwhelming majority saying they support it, 11% opposing it. Any surprise to you that those are the results right now?
No, it's not surprising to me because Americans like a strong America, and they hated the fact that we had gotten so strategically weak that we had to tuck tail and run out of Afghanistan. That let the war in Ukraine happen by giving Putin the green light. Obviously, our adversaries have been just wrecking shop, doing whatever they wanted to do around the world. We'd even had third world Houthis shooting rockets at the United States of America. I mean, how weak could we have possibly been? The sad reality is when you're weak, you're going to fight. President Trump is turning the temperature down on conflict, but in order to do that, he actually has to exert American strength so we actually have an effective deterrence with our adversaries. I think with what President Trump has done over the last year and what we've done, the successes we've had as Americans, he's sent a very clear message to our adversaries that this is not the same America that was underneath President Joe Biden or President Barack Obama. This is a force to be reckoned with. And I think we saw that yesterday with Cuba coming to the table and saying, we want to make a deal. We do not want to have the same experience that Venezuela and Iran have had, where Russia and China are not doing anything to support their allies because of the strategic strength of the United States of America. Guys, we are rolling the table right now on the world, and it is absolutely an America First policy that's working towards American interests and American interests first.
And my last question here before I let you go, what are you going to be watching for in the coming hours and days as you see everything play out?
Well, we need to continue to go after their remaining assets in their Navy. I think that's incredibly important as we look at the disruptions that have happened in the global oil markets. We have to have freedom of navigation through the strait down there. Simultaneously, we have to continue hammering Iran's industrial capacity to produce missiles and to produce drones. If we do those two things, we're going to set Iran back a long time, completely deny their ability to make war, which is how we actually earn the peace.
All right, Congressman Pat Harrigan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and helping to discuss all of this. Anything you want to add, anything we missed here before I let you go?
I just want to say thanks to our troops. You guys know how to fight. You know how to leverage the tools that we have, and you've got a president that's got your back, has given you every authority that you need in order to be successful.
A Brief History of Drinking, presented by ABC.
The beer funnel, designed to deliver cheap beer at unbridled velocities. Punch punch.
No one really knew what was in it, but that was somehow the point.
The toga party. The perfect pairing of bedsheets and wine. Drinking looks a bit different today. Less volume, a glass of wine, an expertly crafted cocktail.
I see you there, Brenda.
Our shift ended. So,
who wants to see the gift shop?
Do this alone.
And welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Tino, and it was a very busy week on Capitol Hill. Let's give you a live look there at White House this morning here. As Kristi Noem, the former South Dakota Congresswoman and governor who has led President Trump's Department of Homeland Security in his second term, was ousted from her position on Thursday. President Trump announcing that on social media, that he is now nominating Senator Markwayne Mullin to replace Noem effective March 31st. I wanted to head over to Fox's Bill Melugin as he details this for us.
He's an Oklahoma rancher and business owner, a former MMA fighter, and a current U.S. Senator. Now, Markwayne Mullin is likely to replace Kristi Noem as the head of the Department of Homeland Security.
We're going to try to earn everybody's vote. I'm here to enforce the policies that Congress passed, and right now I'm part of it, but once I make that position, my focus is to keep the homeland secure.
But first, he'll have to get confirmed by the Senate, where his Republican allies will support him.
I like him. B, he's very smart. C, he's a very good businessman. And D, if I didn't believe the three things I just told you, I'd lie to you because Markwayne would whip my ass.
But Democrats may be a mixed bag.
The president has fired Kristi Noem. Good riddance. But the problems at this agency, at ICE, transcend any one person.
DHS has now been unfunded for 3 weeks, and employees at TSA, FEMA, Coast Guard, and Secret Service are missing paychecks. Democrats are dug in and say replacing Noem with Mullin won't end their blockade.
It's not like Kristi Noem was the one who was involved in anything. She was a corrupt lackey. So we were dealing with the White House before, and we're going to continue to deal with the White House at this point.
Now, if Senator Mullin can get confirmed, President Trump says he'll start at DHS at the end of the month. Before becoming an Oklahoma senator, he was an Oklahoma congressman for a decade. Reporting in Washington, Bill Melugin, Fox News.
And as I said, a lot went down in Washington, D.C. this week. Let's recap. So the House narrowly rejected a resolution on Thursday to curb President Trump's powers in the Iran war. That vote came after the Senate defeated a similar measure earlier this week. While the tally in the House, 212 to 219, was expected to be tight, the outcome provides a clarifying snapshot of political support for and opposition to President Trump's decision to initiate the U.S.-Israel military operations against Iran. House Speaker Mike Johnson warned that it would be dangerous to limit the president's authority while the U.S. military is already in conflict. We also follow the DHS funding vote as House Democrats largely vote to allow the Department of Homeland Security shutdown to keep going on Thursday, despite Republicans' concerns about the increased domestic terror threat amid the U.S.-Israeli operation in Iran. It came hours after President Trump shocked Capitol Hill by ousting DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and appointing Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma as her replacement. But that did not stop the vast majority of Democrats from voting against a bipartisan DHS funding bill aimed at funding the cabinet agency through September 30th, the end of the fiscal year. The bill did pass the House in a 221 to 209 vote, with all but 4 House Democrats voting against it. A significant indicator firing is not enough to tip the scales in the ongoing standoff. A lot to discuss here, as I just said, so we're going to bring in Christian Daytalk. He is the White House reporter at the Washington Examiner, joining us live. Thank you so much, Christian.
Yeah, anytime, Kristi. Happy to join you.
Let's start with the shakeup at DHS. President Trump abruptly repositioning Kristi Noem and tapping Senator Markwayne Mullin as her replacement. What's the White House say about why this happened now? What was the lead up?
Well, publicly, not very much. But if you speak to people behind the scenes, whether they are White House officials or folks within President Trump's orbit outside of government, the writing was on the wall for Kristi Noem for weeks, if not months now. Of course, we saw the fallout from the Alex Preddy good killings in Minnesota earlier this year. But there's really been just a lengthy list of negative headlines that Noem has caused the president, dating back to when she was confirmed in the spring of last year. And ultimately, this hearing on Tuesday in front of Congress, where she was pressed on a $200 million ad campaign that she claims POTUS signed off on. The president says he had no idea how Noem was spending that money, and ultimately conversations about Noem's life with Corey Lewandowski, her top advisor, and someone who's had a checkered past within Trump world dating back to 2016. That was ultimately much. It was the final straw that broke the camel's back, and ultimately Kristi Noem had to go in order for President Trump to get beyond these just with this wave headlines.
Now, despite Kristi Noem being reassigned to a new position there, Democrats still overwhelmingly voted against the DHS funding bill. What factor influenced Democrats' votes even after we saw all of that unfold there?
Well, we had heard behind closed doors that Noem's departure from the administration, whether it was an outright firing or a resignation, what have you, might move some Democrats for this DHS bill. But as you mentioned, the math this week shows that simply isn't the case. And ultimately, Democrats are arguing they will not vote for any further funding packages for ICE, for CBP, until there are reforms for both agent behavior and general strategies on how the president plans to pursue this deportation agenda until they're signing checks again. And look, I do think on the one hand, Democrats politically are smart to hold their ground here, but ultimately they don't have that much negotiating space considering the massive $70 billion funding package that was included for ICE in the big, beautiful bill last summer. So the Democrats continue to hold the president's feet to the fire, but really no change in terms of the substance of these negotiations, both before and after Noem was replaced earlier this week.
Right. We've just been hearing from President Trump on Truth Social saying here today that, Iran going to be hit pretty hard. So this is going to continue for quite some time. Republicans arguing, though, that allowing a DHS shutdown to continue could increase domestic security risks, especially with what we're seeing there in the Middle East. How much is that argument really resonating politically there in Washington?
I'm not sure how much that specific argument is resonating, Kristi. I mean, let's be honest. We're both millennials. We've been in D.C. for decades or on the East Coast covering news. There's always been looming threat of a terror attack in the post 9/11 world. I think what's perhaps a better argument in terms of moving the needle in Washington is what's happening with the coastalies, because let's not forget, those individuals are, of course, going without pay while still on their active deployments, some of which are supporting U.S. operations in the Middle East right now. There are Coast Guard service members and vehicles supporting the aircraft carriers in the Gulf. The other big question mark is what happens with FEMA. Obviously, the Potomac River spill here in Washington is a major headline in the district, but just the ability of massive, unfortunately deadly or devastating storms across the country, until the DHS is funded fully, FEMA won't be able to perform its duties in a normal operating capacity. So I would discard and FEMA are the two big question marks right now that Republicans can try to move Democrats as this shutdown stretches in, towards a full month at this point in time.
And just staying on the topic of the Middle East, another thing we were really watching here is the War Powers Resolution votes, right? And now turning to that, the House rejected a resolution to curb President Trump's war powers. As I said when I was bringing you in here, Christian, 212 to 219 vote. What does that narrow margin tell us about where Congress stands on the president's military actions? Because really these votes were to get lawmakers about whether they support this or oppose this.
It kind of tells us a lot. None of it is super helpful right now, given the early days of this military engagement. On the one hand, Republicans are overwhelmingly behind the president. You don't even have to worry about Rand Paul's, the extreme non-interventionist lawmakers. And not for nothing, J.D. Vance, who was one of those voices when he was in the Senate, he is now one of the biggest cheerleaders for Operation Epic Fury on social media. I think what's more interesting are those 4 Democrats who actually flipped and voted down War Powers resolution on the grounds that 60 days was actually too long for the president and the administration to brief Congress and go back for reauthorization before ending the operation. So on the one hand, Republicans seem totally united, but a few Democrats potentially throwing a wrench in the votes this past week are signaling we actually want for a further restrictive package, not just the 2 months that we are floating to be allotted to the president earlier this week.
And going off of that, you just touched on this a little bit, but we saw the Senate had already defeated a similar measure earlier in the week, as we've been saying. Does this effectively close the congressional efforts to limit President Trump's authority on Iran, at least for now?
I mean, at least for the weekend, without a doubt. But not for nothing, the House is going to be out of session next week. And unless Mike Johnson reverses course and calls members back to Washington, I don't think we'll have a War Powers vote come through over the next 7 days or so. But this doesn't close the door entirely. And again, as this operation stretches out, the likelihood and possibility of increased U.S. casualties in the region and on boats, in the Gulf, that's going to continue to rise. And if that casualty count continues to tick up, you might see some Republicans, potentially those in, tough races this November, they might move back towards the centrist or at least the Democratic option of trying to block President Trump's ability to wage war in the Middle East.
Christian, you're on the ground there in Washington, D.C. You cover the White House. What should we be looking out for on Capitol Hill this coming week as we're talking about all of this?
Well, I think the confirmation fight for Senator Mark Wayman to take over from Kristi Noem at DHS is obviously going to be a huge topic. The president really needs the Senate to get the ball moving quickly if he wants to confirm Mullen by the end of March. The other big item ticket is just the armament levels that the U.S. is currently facing. The president hosted a number of lawmakers, defense executives at the White House, pressuring them to do more to restock U.S. supplies. And I wouldn't be surprised if the White House puts forward either their entire budget request for fiscal year 2027, which, let's not forget, the president is already a month late on that deadline, or a potential supplemental request for ongoing funding for Operation Epic Fury, and again, an opportunity to restock the United States arms closets. That's what I've got my eyes on coming this week, Christy. But again, when President Trump is in the White House, you never know, might pop up. I wouldn't be surprised if we've got a totally different news headline that everyone is focused on to round out the end next week.
Yeah, the news moves quickly here with the Trump administration. Christian, anything else you'd like to add about this before I let you go?
I think that's it, really. I just think that this moment in Iran is incredibly important for President Trump moving forward. It could have a major impact not only in the November elections this year, but the 2028 general down the line as well. So we're all, watching as closely as possible, praying for no major hiccups in the coming days and weeks.
All right, Christian Daycock, Washington Examiner, thank you so much for taking the time this morning.
Thank you, Christy.
And if you are just joining us, it is a new hour. My name is Christy Matino. Thanks for being here with us on Live Fox. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Live Now from Fox. We do have several live events this hour that we're keeping an eye on as it relates to the Trump administration. A bit earlier today, heard from President Trump as he spoke at the Shield of Americas. Now, at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have slated here on our end that we're going to be hearing from Secretary of State Marco Rubio and outgoing DHS Secretary Kristi Noem also set to speak here at the Shield of Americas. In case you missed it a bit earlier this morning, President Trump announced a Western Hemisphere security initiative called the Shield of Americas. Earlier this
Build storage your way. U.S. General, only at Harbor Freight.
The goal of our program is to help students to be practice ready whenever it's time for their first job.
The school had a lot of great things in place for training. You would feel as if you were in the field for the first time.
Don't run away from your future. Follow out, follow your dreams, and anything is possible.
Countries to combat criminal gangs, cartels, and illegal migration across the Western Hemisphere. Just again, keeping an eye on that here as it's slated to begin in 15 minutes time, those comments from Noem as well as Rubio. Now, in the meantime, in case you missed it, President Trump did speak a couple hours ago at this point, so we wanted to bring his comments to you here on Live Now from Fox.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pretty wild time, but it's going very well. Sit down, please. And tremendous progress has been made, as you're probably seeing just by watching. We're doing something. The military and rebuilt it and made it really strong. And my first administration, along with a lot of other things we did, we had a great first term. And now we're using it. Unfortunately, we have to. But you're seeing how great it is. There's military like it on Earth, not even close. And we're doing very well in Iran. You see the result, and it's been amazing. We've knocked out 42 ships, some of them very large, in 3 days. That was the end of the Navy. We knocked out their Air Force. We knocked out their communications, and all telecommunications is gone. I don't know how they communicate, but I guess they will figure something out. It's not working out too well. And they're bad people. They're just bad people. When you look at October 7th and beyond October 7th, look at all the killing that they've done over the years, for 47 years. And this had to be done. They were very close to a nuclear weapon. Would have had one if we didn't do our B-2 hit, Midnight Hammer. They would have had it 8 months ago. They would have had a nuclear weapon, and, you know, they're crazy, and they would have used it. So we did the world a favor. And they said, well, how are you doing on a scale of 0 to 10? How are you doing with the attack? And I said, 15, I would say, with 10 being the best. But it's something that had to be done, and we're doing it well. And I want to thank everybody involved. I'll be going right after this. I'll be leaving for Dover, bad situation, to greet the families of the heroes coming home from Iran, coming home in a different manner than they thought they'd be coming home. But they're great heroes in our country, and we're going to keep it that way. There's always, when it comes to war, there's always that. But we're going to keep it to a minimum, I think, Pete, and going to be something, a service that we're really providing, not for the Middle East, but for the world. These were sick people, very sick people. This morning, I'm honored to welcome distinguished heads of state from across the Western Hemisphere for the first Shield of the Americas Summit. And something very, very special. Marco's been working on it very hard, so have a lot of other people, because it's a very important place for us. It's nice to, it's very, very important. You know, we go all over the world, 9,000 miles away, 12,000 miles away. I said, how long is this flight? Sir, this flight is 19 hours. I said, oh, that's great. I said, now I have flights that last for 2 hours. I like that better. Much better. But on this historic day, we come together to announce a brand new military coalition to eradicate the criminal cartels playing in our region. And you have a lot of it. One of the things when we were talking backstage, they were telling me the crime, the cartels, and we're knocking the hell out of them where we can. We're going to go heavier. So with the boats coming in, the boats, there's not a lot of people coming in by boats anymore. We knocked down drugs coming in by sea, drugs coming in through water is down 96%. We're trying to find out who the percent are, because I think they're the bravest people in the world. Either that or they don't watch television, right? They're either very brave or they're not watching. But we're calling this military partnership the America's Counter Cartel Coalition. And that's what you need. You have cartels just aim to grow in this region unbelievably rapidly. Has to do with drugs largely. Earlier this week here in Miami, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Pete, you're fantastic, doing a great job. We're proud of you. And representatives, 17 different nations formally entered this new alliance. The heart of our agreement is a commitment to using lethal military force to destroy the sinister cartels and terrorist networks. Once and we'll get rid of them. We need your help. You have to just tell us where they are. We have amazing weaponry, as you probably noticed over the last short period of time. But I want to thank members of the coalition, most of whom are friends of mine. Few of them I just met, but most of whom are friends, many of whom I endorsed. And they took that endorsement and they went on to win big. I haven't had a bad endorsement yet, right? He says he was happy. He was a couple of points down and went up like a rocket ship, right, in Argentina. But the president of Argentina is here, Javier Milei. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. President of El Salvador, another friend, Nayib Bukele. You know, he's a man who we've gotten very close to. I saw him as a young man my first time. You're young and handsome. Now you're older and handsome. You're older and handsome. But he runs a good operation. That's all I care about, right? When I first saw him, I said, he's too young. And then I saw how he did. I said, well, I guess he's not too young, because I was young and did well. But you've been a great president, and we appreciate the relationship very much. President of Paraguay, Santiago Peña, thank you very much. Thank you very much. President of Ecuador, Danielle Noboa. Danielle, thank you. Thank you, Danielle. President of Panama, I love that canal. Jose, I think he made the greatest deal in history. He bought it for $1. One of our brilliant presidents. I can't leap over that deal. They gave it to him for $1. Jose Raul Molino, whereas, you know, you made one of the greatest real estate deals in history. Jimmy Carter, one of our great presidents. President of Honduras, Tito Esfora. Thank you, Tito. Thank you very much. Great to see you the other day. President of Guyana, Irfan Ali. Thank you. President of Bolivia, Rodrigo Paz. Thank you very much. Great people. Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I have to be very careful with this because, you know, your first name is very similar to a first name that we have, but fortunately it's pronounced different. It's Kamala. It's supposed to Kamala. Kamala better in many ways. And just want to say thank you very much, but I had to be careful with that first name. I didn't want to get it mixed up because it would ruin your reputation completely. Right? I said, is this the same pronunciation? No, it's a little different. It's Cam, right? Cam, as opposed to Cam. But we don't like Cam. President of Costa Rica, Rodrigo Pérez, as well as the President-elect of Costa Rica, Laura Fernandez Delgado. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. And the President of the Dominican Republic, Luis Abinader. And so many of my friends are in the Dominican, including the Sugar King, right? He is indeed the Sugar King. He got a lot of sugar. I don't know if that's good or bad, but he's got a lot of it, right? But we're grateful, joined as well by the President-elect of Chile, Jose Cast. Congratulations. It's an endorsement. Gave you a little endorsement. I love when I give endorsements and people win. But you know what? They don't lose. You know, I don't know. I guess it would be illegal. Could you imagine if I could say they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on a campaign? They're losing. And they beg me for an endorsement. They win by 30 points. And I get nothing. If I could tell that, is there a way, do we have any of our legal people here? Marco's close enough. Is there a way I could get paid for that, Marco? I'd make a lot. They spend millions of dollars. And I give it for nothing. I could, even if I put it into the Treasury of the United States, it would be pretty good, right, Marco? But Marco's saying, this is not a good idea. No, but it's an honor to do it. It's an honor to have that power where I can somebody, and even in foreign countries. Here it was, we had one in this week, 124-0 with endorsements, and so that's great. But now I'm doing foreign countries all of a sudden. To say, sir, would you endorse me? It's an honor. If I like you, I only do it if I think you're good. You know, if I think you're not good, I've turned down many more than I've accepted, believe me. I want to thank Secretary of State Marco Rubio for his leadership in organizing this really important. He's fantastic. He's a fantastic Secretary of State. And thus far, look, we've had the most incredible year of any president, I think, by, you know, I ended 8. We're not going to go into it too much today, but what we've done is incredible. And we're going to be doing some incredible things together, because I look at our region, if I can call it that, as being very important. It's been abandoned by the United States so many years. You know, they went so far away. They went to these faraway places where they weren't even wanted. And a lot of stupid people, really stupid people. But Marco's going to go down, I think, as the best Secretary of State in history. That's my opinion. Now, I'm a little prejudiced because I like him too. But I think he's on his way. So you have 25%, you have 75%. He's got 3 years left. So he's got 25% under your belt. So far, you're leading. You're very leading out a smidge over a couple of pretty great ones. We've had a couple of pretty great ones. But I think he's going to do that. And I think Pete's right there, too. If Pete keeps going, he's going to be something, too.
Those are some comments there from President, but just a few hours ago at this point, we wanted to bring them to you in case you missed them. That's President Trump at the Shield of America's signing ceremony. We're going to continue his comments after the 2-minute commercial break, but as a reminder, we are expecting to hear from outgoing DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as they're set to be speaking there in just a matter of moments at this point. So let's head away for that break. More coverage on the watching live now from Fox. I'm your host, Christy Matino. I've been here with you for the past several hours. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday. We continue to follow administration as we were listening in before the break to President Trump as he spoke a bit earlier today announcing the Shield of the Americas. Before the break, I also shared we're anticipating to hear from outgoing DHS Secretary Kristi Noem as well as Secretary of State Rubio really any moment now, slated for 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, as they'll also be speaking about the Shield of the Americas. Let's continue to listen into these comments from President Trump a bit earlier today. We'll bring that to you live once we do see that feed pop up for us.
If I can call it that, as being very important. It's been abandoned by the United States so many years. You know, they went so far away. They went to these faraway places where they weren't even wanted. And a lot of stupid people, really stupid people. But Marco's going to go down, I think, as the best Secretary of State in history. That's my opinion. Now, I'm a little prejudiced, like him too. But I think he's on his way. So you've done 25%. You got 75%. He's got 3 years left. So he's got 25% under your belt. So far, you're leading. You're very leading by just about a smidge over a couple of pretty great ones. We've had a couple of pretty great ones. I think he's going to do that. And I think Pete's right there, too. If Pete keeps going, he's going to be something, too. At what he does. All of the nations in this room share the same priorities: security, prosperity, free commerce, and the rule. And you want the rule of law. Sometimes your communities don't let you have it because you got some rough communities, man. That's why together we're also forming the Shield of Americas, a new organization to advance these shared priorities in our hemisphere. And we're pleased to be joined as well by Secretaries Pete Hegseth, Scott Bessent. Scott, thank you very much, Scott. Oh, it has to be a big deal if you're here. Well, he controls the purse strings of the country. You know, he goes on television and he just soothes everybody. He did it yesterday. The prices were going. He got on. He's a soothing person. He's actually a killer, but I don't say that. No, he's a soothing person. He goes on television. Right, Pete? I think nobody better. So we could use him for war every once in a while, you know, soothe. Although we don't really want that kind of a personality for war. We want your personality for war. It's just perfect. Howard Lutnick. Thank you, Howard. Chris Wright. Kristi Noem. Along with U.S. Trade Representative Jameson.
Are you sure?
Yes. Oh, it's easy to call it. That one's tidal wave for sure.
Yeah, we're sure.
Superior power and runtime are just a click away. Ryobi, the #1 cordless outdoor power brand. Over 85 product 40-volt system to easily tackle your entire yard. Gas performance, cordless convenience, only at the Home Depot.
The best schools, and he was #1 in his class at all times. And Marco saw that and saw the talent he's got, and she said, that's the guy I want as a deputy, and I heard you're doing a great job. Thank you very much. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. Stephen is, I don't have to tell you anything about Stephen. Everyone knows. I think Stephen, there's nothing I can say. He's fantastic, that's all I can say. And Senator Bernie Moreno, who's a credible friend of mine, and he ran a great race. He was not given much of a chance. He was running against a person who was there for a long time and was sort of considered a shoo-in, right, Bernie? And we knocked him out. We knocked him out. He's trying to make a comeback, but we took him out. And Bernie's done a great job. For decades, leaders in this region have allowed large swaths of territory, the Western Hemisphere, to come under the direct control. Transnational gangs have taken over and they've run areas of your country. We're not going to let that happen. We'll help you. And bloodthirsty cartels that impose their will through murder, torture, extortion, drug trafficking, bribery, and terror. And some of you are in danger. I mean, you're actually in danger. It's hard to believe. But we're working with you to do whatever we have to do. We'll use missiles. If you want us to use a missile, they're extremely accurate. Boom, right into the living room. That's the end of that cartel person. But we'll do whatever you need if you want. A lot of countries don't want to do that. They say, oh, sure, I'd rather not have that. I'd rather not have that. I believe they can be spoken to. I don't think so. Many of them don't want, and that's okay too. You're going to do your, but if you need help, you're going to let us know, okay? Many of the cartels have developed sophisticated military operations, highly sophisticated. In some cases, they say they're more powerful than the military in the country. We can't have that. These brutal criminal organizations pose an untenable threat to national security, and they provide a dangerous gateway for foreign adversaries in our region. And we don't want them near our country either. We don't want them to come in. They're cancer, you know. They're cancer, and we don't want it spreading. We have a very strong border. You know, we have a border now where for 9 months, 0 people have been able to come through. It's hard to believe, actually, because we went from 25 million people coming in over the Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst presidents in history of the world. He was the worst president in the history of our country. We've had some pretty bad ones. Recently, we've had some pretty bad ones, but he's the worst. But he would go down as one of the worst in the world. I'm going to up his category now. What he did and what he didn't do was probably worse than what he did. Every leader here today is united in the conviction that we cannot and will not tolerate the lawlessness in our hemisphere any longer. The only way to defeat these enemies is by unleashing the power of our militaries. We have to use our military. You have to use your military. You can't fight these people with, and you have great police. You have some great police, but they threaten your police. They scare your police. You're going to use your military. In many cases, our forces have already been working closely with yours, and the United States looks forward to deepening and expanding the cooperation that's ahead. And it's so good that we got to know so many of you. I mean, we're so many. And I love to get to your countries at some point. Marco loves going to your countries. He's always at one of these countries. He likes your countries the best, okay? You know, where are you? I'm in Chile. Oh, good. How's Chile doing? Good. He likes it. He feels very calm. We all like him, right? It helps. He's got a language. He's got a language advantage over me, because I'm learning a damn language. I don't have time. I was okay with languages, but I'm not going to spend time learning your language. That much I won't do. Just give me a good interpreter. Interpreter, very important. And I know if somebody's good. I may not speak the language, but I know I had an interpreter recently that wasn't good, talking to a very strong person from a different part of the world. And I could tell, even though I don't speak the language, I could tell the interpreter was not good. When you go, when I give a long, flowing, beautiful sentence, and in this case it was a woman, and she gave it in about 1/4 the time, I said, well, their language may be efficient, but it's not that efficient. And I could also tell when I have great interpreters. Interpreters are very important. You know, you have a bad interpreter. You think you're doing well? Boy, did I do a good job talking to this one or that. Was I great when I spoke to Putin today? Was I great when I spoke to President Xi? Was I great? But if the interpreter isn't speaking right, or is weak, or is ineffective, or is just not good, or not interpreting your words correctly, in one case, we had an interpreter who, when she disagreed with what we were saying, she actually changed it. We considered her a foreign minister, right? But no, the interpreter is, I talk about it all the time. Interpreters are really important. When you don't speak the language, they don't speak the language, people have no idea. People have no idea how valuable, and I'm on them all the time, people have no idea how valuable a good interpreter is. But over the last year, the world has witnessed the supreme power of the United States. We're the most powerful military country in the world. Again, I rebuilt it I spent so much time rebuilding it. Over $1 trillion, and now we just had another budget. We're going to $1.5 trillion. We're building a thing called a battleship, like in the old days, remember? We have a Secretary of the Navy, and he suggested, I've always said, why don't we have battleships anymore, shooting big bullets instead of, $3 million rockets? And they said, well, sir, we just don't have them. Nobody could give me the answer, but we're actually building 10 of them And I said, you know, you remember the old one. You see Victory at Sea, remember Victory at Sea? And you see these ships going through those waves like the waves were nothing, although the waves are pretty powerful. They knock out a lot of territory, but you see these incredible, they're pieces of art. Beautiful, most beautiful, the big battleships of the 1940s, right? Power. I said, well, would we want to bring back, because we have some of them, they're museums and other things. And they said, sir, the new ship is 100 times more powerful than what we were looking at with those guns and fire. Amazing, right? 100 times. I said, you sure it's going to be 90 times? 100 times more powerful. And we're building 10 of them. Not to use them. We don't want to use them, but by having them, nobody's going to play them. So, yeah, just good to have them. We don't want to use them. They'll say, oh, he's very militaristic. I'm the one that ended 8 wars. I'm the one that, and we have another one coming, I think. The easiest was that, and that was just, and you know, as you would understand this, the hatred between Putin and his counterpart is so great, okay? It's so great that, you know, Ukraine, Russia, you'd think there'd be a little bit of camaraderie this night. And the hatred is so great, it's very hard for them to get there. It's very, very hard to get there. So we'll see what happens. But we've been close a lot of times, and one or the other would back out. Favor to Europe, and I'm doing it as a favor to life, because they're losing 25,000 souls. Think of that every month. 25,000. Last month, 31,000. It's 31,000 people died, mostly soldiers. So I have an ability to get those things done, to bring people together, and I did great with so many. India, Pakistan, I was disaster. I was raging for a number of days. I did that through trade. I tariffs and trade, and it was amazing. But we did amazing. One was 32 years, one was 34, and one was 37 years, and we got it done quickly. And we'll get this one done too. But the hatred is hatred's an amazing thing. People do bad things, and people don't get things done when the hatred is too great. That's a lot of it. Just as we formed a coalition to eradicate ISIS in the Middle East, we must now do the same thing to eradicate the cartels at home. So we did eradicate ISIS. Now, during the 4 years, we had a rigged election. You probably read about it, probably heard something. So it gave me 4 years to contemplate and to stage my comeback. I staged big comeback. They say it was a comeback. I didn't think it was a comeback because I had the people on my side. So I didn't view it as a comeback, but they did everything possible during that 4 years. They're crooked politicians, dirty cops. They're dirty cops. They did everything possible to make it impossible for me to win. And I won landslide. But during that period of time, I learned a lot. And I learned how you people, and I saw it so badly, how you're suffering with what's happening with the crime in the region. And I said, if we ever come back, we're going to eradicate that crime. And I'm going to work with you. If you want, we're going to do it. We can do it pretty easily. As part of our commitment to countering the cartel presence in our region, we must recognize the epicenter of cartel violence is Mexico. The Mexican cartels are fueling and orchestrating much of the bloodshed and chaos in this hemisphere, and the United States government will do whatever is necessary to defend our national security and to protect the safety of the American people. No, look, it's coming through Mexico. And I like the president very much. She's a very good person. She's got a beautiful voice, a beautiful woman, but a beautiful voice. President. I said, let me eradicate the cartels. No, please, President. We have to eradicate them. We have to knock the hell out of them because they're getting worse. They're taking over that country. The cartels are running Mexico. We can't have that. Too close to us, too close to you. But everything comes in through Mexico, Molly. At the same time, all of us must recommit to ensuring that law and order within our own nations, and that includes zero tolerance for the gang activity, tremendous gang activity in Venezuela. That's in much better shape than it ever has been. We've developed a great relationship in Venezuela. The savages who murder in impunity must be permanently removed from society. We must not allow our criminal justice systems to be corrupted so that they protect these criminals and animals at the expense of your people. And for some reason, over the world, this is a region that has problems that other regions don't have. They have different problems, but they don't have this problem. The United States last year, we achieved the largest drop in murder rate in recorded history. We have the lowest murder rate in 125 years. Hard to believe because, I don't know, it's, we've got a lot of them out, but we allowed through the Biden policies and Obama, who was another terrible president, by the way. He was Barack Hussein Obama, terrible president. He was a divider, great divider. I call him the great divider. But they allowed a lot of people into our country that shouldn't be here, but in particular Biden, because Biden had no idea what he was doing. He had no clue. It was being run by whoever got near the auto pen was running the country. He was the auto pen president, and frankly, they let at least 5 million people come in to our country, some from prisons, some from mental institutions, gang members, the heads of gangs, the mentally insane. I'll tell you, people came in from mental institutions and insane asylums, and we had an open border policy. It's a policy divided and devised by idiots, but they poured into our country. So we went from the worst border in history to by far the best border. We have the best, strongest border that we've ever had. We have great people that did that job by securing our border and cracking down on traffickers and smugglers. We've reduced the fentanyl pouring across our border by 67%. This is in our first year, Give me a little more time, we'll do better. 67%, which is a number that's unthinkable. They say if you could do 2%, 1%, but we got it down 67%. And we got a lot of the murderers out. 11,888 murderers are allowed in our country with this ridiculous open border policy that these eggheads put in. But we're also working closely with you on ending human smuggling and implementing the Safe Third Country agreements, which are very important. In January, America's armed forces also ended the reign of one of the biggest cartel kingpins of all, with the Operation Absolute Resolve to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice in a precision raid that nobody's ever seen anything like it. This was in a very powerful military base, fort, and they went in and they took him out and they got him out, and people couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. We were right into the heart and took him out. And it was nasty. It was about 18 minutes of pure violence. And we took him out. We lost nobody. Not one person was lost. Not one aircraft. No military equipment. Zero. People have never seen anything like it. And you're talking about into a military base with a lot of soldiers, good soldiers. Since that operation, we've been working closely with the new president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, who's doing a great job working with us. I mean, she's doing a great job because she's working with us. If she wasn't working with us, I would not say she's doing a great job. In fact...
All right, so some comments there from President Trump as he spoke at the Shield of the Americas a bit earlier this morning. I do have this feed coming in here that I'm not going to show you right now because it's right now the camera's just on the ground, but we're monitoring here because we are expecting to hear from Secretary of State Marco Rubio and outgoing DHS Secretary Kristi Noem in just a matter of moments, as they're also going to be speaking there in Doral, Florida. That was slated to begin about 20 minutes ago at this point, running a little behind. So what we're going to do is step away for our final commercial break of this hour, bringing that to you live and the rest of President Trump's comments next.
13. Critics are calling Undertone the scariest movie you'll ever hear.
You shouldn't have listened to all of them.
Undertone, only in theaters Friday, March 13.
3, 2, 1, shoot it.
In case a scholarship isn't in his future, Florida Prepaid 529 plans start at just $29 a month. Minutes now. Save for their story.
You're watching live now from Fox. Welcome back. As I've been sharing here before the break, we are anticipating some comments here from Rubio and Dome as they're set to speak at the Shield of the Americas working lunch. That feed here, we're getting a bit of mixed, well, what it is we had a live feed and now it looks like it may have been playback. We have not heard from either of them quite yet. Let me just give you a perspective here so you can see. We like to show you the behind the scenes here all the time on Live Now from Fox. We have all of these feeds here. We're monitoring them to you. Once again, they were slated to speak about 20 minutes ago at this point. So what we're going to do is head back to some comments from President Trump as he spoke a bit earlier, announcing the Shield of the Americas. And as soon as we see that feed get underway here, we will to you. On the other side of that is my colleague, Christina Evans. Thank you so much for being here with us on Live from Fox.
They couldn't believe it. We were right into the heart to come out. And it was nasty. It was about 18 minutes of pure violence. And we took them out.
And right as we went to that, we did get this live feed. Let's go listen in.
Benito, thank you for coming and being a part of this very important initiative. It's a critical initiative. Obviously, we start with a strong focus on security, but there's so much more here. And as you've seen from, so much more we can work together on. And as you've seen from the cabinet members that are here today, again, on behalf of the president, he is currently on his way to Dover Air Force and Air Force Base to receive, sadly, the remains of the 6 Americans who lost their lives in the operation against Iranian terrorism. And so he apologizes for not being able to join us for this lunch, but he knew you would understand. But he's very excited about this initiative, and I'm personally very excited to be part of this with each of you today. It's a top priority for us. And while there are clearly a focus on the security of the hemisphere, as you can see from the representation in our cabinet, from trade to commerce to energy to treasury, and there's also a focus very on the opportunities we have to work together economically. But you can't have economic growth without security. And as evidence of the president's strong commitment to this initiative, so that this is not just going to be something that we meet one time and have conversations and we meet once a year and put out a paper. We want it to be an issue of action. He has appointed Secretary Noem as the special envoy dedicated to this relationship. And you will see a lot of her. She'll be very involved with each of you at a personal level and on a daily, weekly, and monthly level to ensure that what we talk about here today and the work we do together continues on and we can build upon that. So I want to turn it over to our envoy who will be doing this, and she'll be running our program. And again, we really, truly for joining us in this, what I think is a very historic gathering of allies and friends, as I said in my comments earlier today. Secretary Noem.
Well, thank you, Secretary Rubio. I appreciate all of you being here today and for making this a priority. First of all, I offer thanks to our president, who had the vision to bring all of you as world leaders here to have the conversation on not just protecting your countries, but also protecting your neighbors, and the Shield of America is becoming a real vision. This is intended to be a group that works together to make sure that we're each defending our own sovereignty, we're each defending our own security and economic prosperity, but then also continuing to build on these relationships to ensure that we can do that in a way that's effective, defeating the enemies that we have amongst us in the cartel organizations, which our country has designated as foreign terrorist organizations. But then also by adding that security element, we have an opportunity then to have economic prosperity that blesses all of our people. So I do want to thank the president for creating this and for giving me the honor and the opportunity to serve as a special envoy to this region, to the Western Hemisphere. This Shield of Americas will be a powerful example to the rest of the world what's possible. There's nothing like this happening today anywhere else in the world. And the way that we cooperate on our shared ideals of freedom and of democracy and safety and security will be a shining light to all of those who wish to be more like all of us. So my background is I'm a farmer and a rancher that served in government, in Congress as governor, and then as Secretary of Homeland Security. In the last year as Secretary of Homeland Security, we have focused on securing our border. We have transformed our country from one that was being invaded by enemies, millions of them that were coming in unvetted, that we didn't know who was there and who wished to harm us. We've secured that border. We've been removing public safety threats, and over 3 million people have been deported or removed from our country in the last year. Secure borders has changed everything for our country. It's allowed us an opportunity to focus on business and invest in relationships with other countries, and has ended the crisis that our country was going through in the years previous to President Trump's leadership. So that is something that we recognize, that now that America is secure and our borders are secure, that we want to focus on our neighbors and to help our neighbors with their borders and challenges that they have, so that they have the security that we enjoy. I've looked forward to meeting many of you. Many of you I've met throughout the last year and spent time with. I know President Bukele was probably the first world leader I had the chance to visit with. We partnered on security and in El Salvador, and appreciate the way he's brought peace to El Salvador, and prosperity is following. That's been a great example. Also went to Chile and spent some time and enjoyed as well. We focused on, under the Department of Homeland Security, we have cybersecurity operations and experts, and we worked there with embedding some cybersecurity experts, and have that opportunity to continue to build on that if that's some of the challenges that you may have. Spent some time in Argentina with President Milei as well, and appreciated his focus on economic prosperity and how we could work together on that. And of course, Ecuador has been very strong partners with all of. We've worked on not just security and fighting cartels, but also making sure the drug trafficking is being addressed, and we can build those relationships. I've been in many of your other countries working with your presidents and leaders, and hope to continue to build on that so that we could have candid conversations about what to do in the future. Our objectives are going to be to destroy the cartels, to go after these narco-terrorists that are destroying our people, killing our children and our grandchildren. We're also going to keep our adversaries at bay. Those adversaries that wish to change our way of life and our values that are outside of our hemisphere, we want to ensure continuing to keep them out of our hemisphere and focus on building alliances amongst ourselves and our strengths. We have worked and are proud of the Department of War, the conference that many of you just attended the last few days, and will continue to do that. We want our hemisphere to be safer, to be more sovereign, and to be more prosperous, and looking forward to working with you on all of that. The first objective will be not just on sovereignty, but also migration control, that we'll work on economic prosperity. We'll have and reverse these harmful foreign influences that have come into many of our businesses, our technologies, and we've seen infiltrate different areas of our way of life. That's my objective every day. I will, when the press leaves, give you all my personal cell phone numbers so that you can reach me at any time that you may need something, and we'll work together to continue to make sure that our relationship is a shield to the Americas, that this will be a Western Hemisphere that is better, safer, more prosperous, and more free because of the leadership that all of you provide. So thank you to Secretary Rubio for hosting this and having the vision to bring us all together. I think this will be something that for years to come will bring more security to nations.
All right, well, thank you. We'll ask our friends and not friends to leave.
Retaliation in this hemisphere. What's next on Iran?
All right, it does appear that we just lost that shot there in the room, but we wanted to make sure we were able to bring all of that to you here on Live Now from Fox. Those were very brief remarks we were able to hear from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And also speaking out for the first time is Kristi Noem since the announcement was made. She made a brief press conference right after President Trump put out a Truth Social post indicating that she would be moving into a new position there at Shield of the Americas, but has spoken specifically to what that job was going to entail on camera. She put out a post as well on her social media this week, right after that announcement that was made, but it's still a lot of things that we are now watching from that angle. In the meantime, I do want to put up this line that we have there in Washington, D.C. of the White House. And so as we were watching all of those feeds come in and also listening to those remarks, this wasn't the first time that we did hear from some of the leaders at the Shield of America summit that was happening in Florida. We do know that Kristi Noem is now reacting as this comes as President Trump removed her from her position as Homeland Security Secretary earlier this week, announcing on social media that she would be replaced and now become Special Envoy for the Shield of Americas. This is the president's initiative for security against narcotics trafficking in the Western Hemisphere. And so still a lot to understand about that, but it was good to be able to hear from Kristi Noem and get her perspective of what this new position is going to be looking like. Earlier today, though, President Trump did host those Latin American leaders at his golf resort near Miami for this summit as well. President Trump spoke there earlier today, encouraging regional leaders gathered at that golf club to take military action against drug trafficking cartels and transnational gangs that he says pose a, quote, unacceptable threat to the hemisphere's national security. He did go on stage and say the only way to defeat these enemies is by unleashing the power of our military. We have to use our military. You have to use your military. This, of course, is citing the U.S.-led coalition that confronted the Islamic State group there in the Middle East. The Republican president then went on to say that we, quote, must now do the same thing to eradicate the cartels here at home. President Trump did say that this event is a part of his pledge to reassert U.S. dominance there in the Western Hemisphere. But again, we knew that he wasn't going to be at this summit all day today. President Trump is also going to be attending a dignified transfer at the Dover Air Force Base in Denver. This is there for the dignified transfer of the 6 U.S. troops who were killed in a drone strike just one day after the United States and Israel began their attack on Iran. And so we'll continue to keep you updated for that feed to also come into our newsroom. That time is slated for 1:30 this hour. It's not going to be fed into our newsroom here live. Instead, we will get it as what's called tape playback. It's just going to be delayed a few minutes and moments, but we'll make sure to bring it to you in full once we receive that feed into our newsroom. And so we are in a new hour here on Live Now from Fox. I do want to thank my colleague Christy Matino, who was with you for the last few hours, taking you through today's top stories. My name is Christy, and I'm going to continue to do the same. We're going to take this opportunity to slide away for our first 2-minute commercial break of the hour. Stay right here with us. Thanks for being with us here right now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. As promised, we are going to continue on with these top stories that we're following today. That includes keeping our eyes there on the Middle East. I do want to show you this live vantage point that we have right now. This is a look in Tel Aviv. We've been watching some of the skies, not only over Israel, but also watching the sky in Lebanon as Israel and Hezbollah have continued to trade strikes back to back throughout the remainder of this week. This of all, of course, coming as we are 1 week into this conflict with Iran. In the meantime, though, as that is a main topic of conversation, we've been hearing from several members of President Trump's administration answering questions for the president, but also adding to some of the comments also made this week. I do now want to play out an update that we got from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt as she gave an update and answered questions from the press just yesterday. Let's listen.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you out here. It's a busy day, as you all know. The president will be meeting with defense contractors here at the White House in a few minutes with Secretary Hegseth. This is a pre-scheduled meeting, and the purpose of it is to talk about the president's aggressive and fierce support for rapidly increasing the ability of U.S. manufacturers to produce American-made weapons, which we know are the best in the world. The president signed an executive order on this earlier this year. This is a long-held policy objective of this administration, and so he'll be speaking directly with these defense contractors. But of course, as the president has maintained, we have more.
Whether you're a professional technician or simply take pride in maintaining your own cars, Harbor Freight offers quality auto tools to meet every need at prices that can't be beat. Harbor Freight, your automotive destination.
Discover thousands of top-rated products and feel the Love Honey. So, what are you waiting for? Shop now at lovehoney.com.
A few questions. Sure.
Thank you very much. The president said that we're not going through all of this so that we can end up with another Khamenei. And he also said that we can keep this up. Does that mean that this current mentality in Iran remains in place? You're going to have to keep doing the fight.
I won't get ahead of the president on broadcasting any timelines. What I will tell you is what President Trump has already laid out, which is the achievable objectives of Operation Epic Fury. We expect to last about 4 to 6 weeks, and we are well on our way to achieving those objectives. Annihilating Iran's navy, we know that we've sunk more than 30 Iranian vessels and ships. Navy has now been deemed combat ineffective. Taking out the ballistic missile threat that Iran posed to the United States and our troops and bases in the region, we have done a tremendous job. The United States military has done a tremendous job at getting that objective thus far. Just 6 days in, the retaliatory ballistic missile strikes from Iran are now down 90%. Of course, assuring Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon as well, and significantly weakening their proxies in the region, which we know are responsible for the deaths of Americans. And we've seen Hezbollah and the Houthis hardly putting up a fight over the course of the last 6 days. Ultimately, the president has made it very clear he wants to take out the threat of Iran to the United States, and Operation Epic Fury is well on its way to doing that. As for the future of Iran, as the president has pointed to, of course it's in the best interest of the United States of America for Iran to no longer be led by a radical terrorist that chants death to America and is lying to the United States and the world about their secret ambitions to possess a nuclear bomb. President Trump does not want to see that. He wants interest in pursuing who the next leader of the Iranian country is going to be, and that has yet to be seen, and the president is discussing it and deliberating it. Kristen.
You just said on Fox that it doesn't really matter if Russia is giving Iran information about military assets. Why doesn't it matter if U.S. military is put in danger by Russia? And is that what the president believes as well?
Kristen, and thank you for giving me a chance to make it very clear, is that it clearly not making a difference with respect to the military operations in Iran, because we are completely decimating them. As I said earlier, we've taken out nearly 30 of their ships. Navy has been deemed combat ineffective. 90% reduction in ballistic missile retaliatory strikes against the United States and our Gulf Arab and partners in the region. So, of course, we are achieving the military objectives of this operation, and that is to continue because the United States military is the best and most lethal fighting force in the world. Sure, go ahead, Benny.
Can you confirm if U.S. has taken full control over the airspace in Iran like it's been reported these past days? Trump said within hours, within days. Can you confirm anything along those lines?
Yes, we are well on our way to doing so.
Caroline,
has the president's faith in Russia to cut a peace deal with Ukraine been shaken by the knowledge that Russia is apparently supplying intelligence to Iran in this conflict?
I think the president would say that peace is still an achievable objective with respect to the Russia-Ukraine war. You saw Special Envoy Witkoff put out a tweet yesterday announcing a new prisoner exchange between both Russia and Ukraine. So it's something this administration still wants to see, and something I know the president will continue.
Is he expressing any frustration to Putin about this intelligence?
I'll let the president speak on that directly. Mary.
What does the president mean when he calls for unconditional surrender? Is he saying that it has to fully relinquish control?
What the president means is that when he, as commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, determines that Iran no longer poses a threat to the United States of America and the goals of Operation Epic Fury has been fully realized, then Iran will essentially be in a place of unconditional surrender. Whether they say it themselves or not, frankly, they don't have a lot of people to say that for them, because the United States and State of Israel have completely wiped out more than 50 leaders of the former terrorist regime, including the Supreme Leader himself.
Caroline, the president had a July 4th deadline for the One Big Beautiful Bill. Does he see a deadline for the Save America Act, as I know that a priority of his to get passed?
As soon as possible, I know the president would say. This is a huge priority for the president. It remains one. I know he has added on some priorities to the Save America Act in recent days, namely no transgender transition surgeries for minors. We are not going to tolerate the mutilation of young children in this country, and no men in women's sports. And the president putting all of these priorities together, it speaks to just common sense they are. These are all common sense priorities of this president that are backed by the vast majority of Americans, and he wants Republicans to act on them as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Ken Paxton laid out some conditions yesterday, saying that he would drop out of the race if Senate leadership on the Republican side agreed to getting rid of the filibuster, for example. What are the president's thoughts on that?
I won't get ahead of the president on the Texas Senate race. I know it's of great interest to everyone. I'm no longer his political spokesperson. I'm a government spokesperson, so I'll let him speak on that directly.
You elaborated on the president's decision to tap Markwayne Mullin as the next DHS secretary. Can you talk a little bit about the rationale for the choice, why Mullin was the best fit in his eyes, and also your message to congressional Democrats who continue to keep the DHS unfunded?
Yeah, well, Senator Markwayne Mullin has been a strong friend of the president and a big supporter of the president's immigration policies. Not only that, he's exceptionally qualified and I know well respected by his peers on Capitol Hill from both sides of the aisle. So we look forward to his expeditious confirmation, and I know the White House will be working with our counterparts in the Senate to make that happen as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Caroline. The president has said he wants to be involved in Iran's future. He has also called the son of Supreme Leader Khamenei a lightweight, and he has also said that United States strikes have taken out potential candidates. So does the United States now have any candidates, or looking at candidates who may replace, who may lead Iran for the future?
I know there's a number of people that our intelligence agencies and the United States government are looking at, but I won't get any further on that. Sure.
Is the president satisfied with the pace of the investigation into whether the U.S. military did hit that Iranian school? Is the White House concerned that this wasn't?
Again, as I said at the briefing 2 days ago, I don't have any updates with respect to the investigation. I would expect those to come from the Pentagon. Sure, Haley.
That the U.S. was operating in the region of the school.
Again, I don't have any updates for you on the investigation. Those will come from the Pentagon directly. Haley. Again, I'll let the president speak on that directly. Sure.
Caroline, do you have any comment on the MAGA divide on the Iran war? It seems like everything on X is everybody's going at each other. Any message to both sides of the aisle?
I would just remind people, X is not real life. This president lives in the real world. And with respect to MAGA, President Trump is the leader of MAGA. He's the creator of the MAGA movement. And there is nothing more America first than taking out terrorists who have maimed and killed our own servicemen and women, who chant death to America and who pose a threat to the homeland. So President Trump is a leader of the peace through strength foreign policy doctrine. He attempted tested peace through diplomacy exhaustively and extensively with the rogue Iranian regime. And so they have been struck with the strength and the sheer might and will of the United States forces. And President Trump has proven he's a man of his word. If you go back and look, not just over the past year as president, but in his first term and in many years in his private life as well, when he has said that the Iranian regime can never obtain a nuclear bomb, well, now he's finally on it, and he has the courage to do what so many presidents in the past did not. We'll see you guys later.
All right, so we didn't want to play that back for you from White House Press Secretary, answering a lot of questions there on the Iran conflict. But this just now popping up into our room now. I'm going to take it live for you on the screen. We do have this vantage point there of Air Force One. We do have confirmation from Fox News that President Trump has now arrived in Delaware for the dignified transfer of those U.S. soldiers who were killed in battle. And so what we do want to continue to do here for just a moment is stay on this shot while we watch as the stairs are brought closer to the plane Air Force One. The door is now open, and that will attach there. That'll be, we'll see President Trump now exit Air Force One and come down some of those steps. He may make remarks at any of these points, and so we'll continue to keep you updated as well here. But we do know for the White House, President Trump is set to attend his dignified transfer today of the 6 Army Reserve soldiers who were killed last Sunday. This is when a drone hit a command center in Kuwait, just one day after the U.S. and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury. The White House did put out this statement saying this, quote, President Trump intends to attend the dignified transfer of these American heroes to stand in grief alongside their families. We do know that the Air Force Mortuary Affairs Operations had said that this operation would be happening there in Delaware at Dover Air Force Base. The Pentagon has since released the 6 names of those who were killed earlier this week. They did range in age from 12 years old up to 54 years old. All 6 were assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command Base in Des Moines, Iowa. Just some background if you're not familiar with a dignified transfer. The dignified transfer rule at Dover Air Force Base is conducted for every U.S. military member who dies in the theater of operation while in service of their country. The dignified transfer is not a ceremony. Rather, it is a solemn movement of the transfer case by a carry team composed of military personnel and members' respective service. And so during this process, the transfer cases are draped with the American flag, holding the remains of fallen soldiers as they're carried from the military aircraft that transported them to Dover to in a vehicle to transport them to the mortuary facility at the base. There, the fallen service members are prepared for their final resting place. And we do know that this is not the first time that we've seen President Trump attend these dignified transfer rituals as well. And so what we're going to do here, all the stairs are just now getting set up. We're going to try to hang on to this shot. I'm going to pump up the audio here for just a second. Let's listen in. All right, as you can see there, we're hearing some of the reaction on the ground from some of the reporters and other members who are there to help the president get off the plane and onto the tarmac there. So what we want to do is avoid going to a commercial break at this moment because we do want to see that when President Trump does step off of this. And so, of course, we do know that this dignified transfer is part of some of the reality, this very sobering reality that when it comes to Operation Epic Fury and some of our U.S. soldiers who are currently overseas. And so if you are just tuning in here on Live Now from Fox, President Trump is set to attend this dignified transfer today of these 6 U.S. service members who were killed while supporting Operation Epic Fury. The dignified transfer is taking place there at Dover Air Force. Trump says that First Lady Melania Trump and other members of his cabinet are also set to be in attendance. And so as we're looking at where Operation Epic Fury stands now, I do want to give you a few updates there from the Middle East. This just came down from Fox News about 2 hours ago, saying this, that the Israel Defense Forces said today, well, President Trump now walking out. Let's see if we can just listen in.
Come down, Brett. Leave it up.
All right, as you can see, we're listening into some of the discussion that's happening from the press, who is watching all of this and bringing these live feeds to us here on Live Now from Fox. We did see President get into one of those black SUVs. Alongside him was Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth as well. And so we'll continue to watch this shot, likely going to see this go down in just a few moments. When that happens, we'll go ahead and slide away for a 2-minute commercial break and wait for the next shot that we're going to be getting that is likely going to show us that dignified transfer. Now, we have been informed behind the scenes here that that event will likely not be live, but instead fed back to our newsroom as tape playback happening just a few moments before. And so once we're able to get that feed, we're going to take you out to it in full here on Live Now from Fox, as we do want to be able to play out some of the moments as we're watching it unfold there when it happens at Dover Air Base. And so right now, President Trump alongside Pete Hegseth driving off in this corral of vehicles as they're heading towards the next location. Let's continue to keep the shot up here just so we can get an idea of where all of this will be happening. President Trump did just arrive a short time ago. And so we'll be going to continue to keep the shot up, so we'll see how all of this is likely to unfold here. All right, as I said, we were likely to lose that shot, so we wanted to stay on it as long as possible and listen in to some of the sights and sounds there as we were bringing that to you here on Live Now from Fox. Well, that's going to be our opportunity to slide away for a quick 2-minute commercial break. Before we go, I do want to put this up on your screen as well. Yet another feed that we've been monitoring here in our newsroom. Speaking right now live are some of the representatives with the IDF giving an update on Operation Epic Fury. This, of course, is the joint operation between the United States and Israel as those strikes have happened in the region in the Middle East. This is not in English. This is in Hebrew, so we won't be able to play these comments out for you. We are going to seek to see if we have a translated version of those comments as well.
We asked real people to choose between a car washed at Tidal Wave Auto Spa and a leading competitor to see which was shinier. The results couldn't be clearer. 84% chose Tidal Wave's GraphX 4 over the competition. Keep your car clean, car happy at Tidal Wave.
Undertone is the year's first great horror movie. It's absolute nightmare fuel, nerve shredding, and truly good. It's the scariest movie you'll ever hear. Undertone, only in theaters Friday, March 13th.
Thanks for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. As promised, we're going to continue to trace live feeds and images that are coming to us from Delaware right now. Right as I went to that shot, it did go down on us. It's going to happen from time to time as we're still waiting to see images from the dignified transfer that is set to happen now. And so I do want to put this up on your screen from Rapid Response, putting this out on our X account today, saying this. Today, we honor 6 American heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation. He did go on to say that may God hold them in his eternal embrace and comfort their grieving families, and may God forever bless the United States of America. We do know that President Trump is on hand for this service, or for this process, which is set to happen at any moment. Once we get those feeds into our newsroom, we'll certainly bring them out to you here on Live Now from Fox. I do, though, want to briefly put up a statement as well that we have here from President Trump as he discussed this dignified transfer. He put this on his social media account saying this: I went to Dover Air Force Base with the First Lady and members of my cabinet to pay our highest respect to our great warriors who are returning home last time. God bless them all. He signed it there, President Donald J. Trump. It is important to note that President Trump is going to be there, also joining the families of those attending this dignified transfer. Again, this is a ritual that returns the remains of U.S. service members who've been killed in action. It is considered one of the most somber duties of any commander-in-chief. During his first term, President Trump said that bearing witness to the transfer was, quote, one of the things I have to do as president. And so we do have the names and faces of those who were killed in action. I want to put them up on your screen here as well, here on Live Now from Fox. These are just 4 of the 6. I'll switch this out in a few minutes with the others as well. But the 6 members of the Army Reserve who were killed by a drone strike that happened at a command center in Kuwait were all a part of the 103rd Sustainment Command Base there in Des Moines, Iowa. This provides food, fuel, water, and ammunition, as well as transport and supplies. They died just 1 day after the U.S. and Israel launched its military campaign against Iran. We did hear from Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa. She's also a combat veteran, speaking out after the 6 were identified, saying this: these soldiers engaged in the most notable mission, protecting their fellow Americans and keeping our homeland secure, saying our nation owes them an incredible debt of gratitude that can never be repaid. And putting this up on your screen, the faces of the 2 other soldiers who are going to be in this dignified transfer. Lastly, during this ritual, transits are draped with the American flag, and holding the remains of the fallen soldiers are carried from the military aircraft that are transporting them to an awaiting vehicle to take them to the mortuary facility that's there at the Delaware base. The service then will be prepared for their final resting place as well. And so this is going to be a very solemn event that we're going to bring to you here on Live Now from Fox. But we want to make sure that once it starts, as we're going to get some of those feeds and fit into you, we're going to play it out uninterrupted, listening into just the ambient sound there on the scene, not speaking over it, but allowing that to play out in the moment to speak for itself. And so as we're continuing on here on Live Now from Fox, I do want to we'll go on with some of our other coverage that we've been watching as we're waiting for that feed to come into our room. We did get to listen in to this just yesterday. The United Nations did hold an update on the humanitarian situation there in the Middle East. I want to put some of those comments that we have for you here on Live Now from Fox.
All right, good afternoon. In a short while, I will be joined by Tom Fletcher, who you all know as our emergency relief coordinator. He'll be here to speak to you about the humanitarian situation in the Middle East. He'll be here just for a brief amount of time, so I'm warning you now. On Sunday, what is Sunday?
International Women's Day.
Very good, very good. Oh, what?
And also?
Oh, it's your mom's birthday.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Mrs. Schwinghammer, early happy birthday to the creator of Benno. All right. So besides the parties that will be held in Germany, we will mark International Women's Day here under the theme Rights, Justice, Action for All Women and Girls. Despite progress, women worldwide still hold 64% of the legal rights enjoyed by men. Discriminatory laws continue to shape every aspect of women's lives. In a message for the day, our Secretary General stresses that by fighting discriminatory laws and practices and defending the progress already achieved, we can ensure the dignity, opportunity, and freedom for all women deserve. The 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women will take place next week from the 9th to the 19th of March. Here at headquarters, obviously. Key events include an opening session in the General Assembly Hall, where the Secretary General will deliver remarks. We'll share those remarks with you either today or over the weekend. There'll be numerous side events organized by governments, various UN entities, and of course, civil society. One event I want to highlight, organized by the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence and Conflict, will take place on Monday at 4:45 p.m. in Conference Room 2. You're all invited to join Patton and the UN team of experts on the rule of law for the launch of a global network on conflict-related sexual violence prosecutions. This is aimed at strengthening justice and accountability for survivors, and this is an issue from women and girls in conflicts all over the world. There's also an ongoing photo exhibit in the UN lobby highlighting justice and accountability efforts for survivors of conflict-related sexual violence. Senior personnel announcement to you. The Secretary General is appointing Monica Katina Juma of Kenya as the new Executive Director of the UN Office for Drugs and Crime. She will also serve as the Director General of the UN Office in Vienna. She succeeds Hada Wali of Egypt, to whom the Secretary General is grateful for her dedicated service to UNODC and the United Nations. The Secretary General also wishes to extend his appreciation to John Brandolino, the Director of the Division for Treaty Affairs in ODC, who will continue to serve as Acting Executive Director of UNODC until Ms. Juma assumes her position. She is currently serving as the National Security Advisor to the President of the Republic of Kenya and Secretary of Kenya's National Security Council, a post she's held since 2022. She is a strategic senior leader with depth of expertise and experience, knowledge spanning public policy making, execution, and academia across critical areas of security, diplomacy, and governance. Previously, she held the role of Cabinet Secretary in the Strategic Ministries of Kenya, specifically the Ministry of Energy. Turning to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, I have a statement from the Secretary General, which we'll share with you in writing momentarily. All the unlawful attacks in the Middle East and beyond are causing tremendous suffering and harm to civilians throughout the region. These attacks pose a grave risk to the global economy, particularly the most vulnerable people. The situation could spiral beyond anyone's control, the Secretary General says. He adds that it is time to stop the fighting, get to serious diplomatic negotiations, as the stakes could not be higher. Speaking of high stakes, in Lebanon, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that widespread displacement orders are placing already affected civilians under increasing strain. Ongoing airstrikes across the country are killing and injuring dozens of people. Across the country, more than 100,000 people are now sheltering in collective centers. Many more people are on the move. Services in affected areas remains disrupted. We've received reports that hospitals in South Beirut were forced to suspend operation and evacuate patients on March 5th and remain non-operational today. Humanitarian partners work closely with national and local authorities as scaling up assistance in shelter and host communities. Since March 2nd, they've distributed more than 120,000 meals. In the south, our peacekeepers continue to observe strikes towards Israel by Hezbollah in Israeli airstrikes and shelling into Lebanon. Peacekeepers have also observed Israeli Defense Forces ground incursions across the Blue Line into Lebanese territory. That's in addition to those recorded earlier in the week. And I tell you that our UNIFIL peacekeepers remain in place and in position in the application of their mandate. And in Syria, over 30,000 people have crossed from Lebanon into that country over the past week. That's what our Syrian authorities are telling us. UN teams are present at border crossings, monitoring movements and coordinating with the Syrian government and other partners to provide assistance when appropriate. We remind all parties that civilians and civilian infrastructure must be protected at all times in accordance with international humanitarian law. We urge all involved to avail to the diplomatic channels and avoid further escalation and return to the implementation of Security Council Resolution 1701. Turning to Iran, our colleagues at UNICEF tell us they're deeply concerned about the deadly impact of the ongoing military escalation in that country, the impact it is having on children. Approximately 180 children have reportedly been killed and many more injured. Among the casualties are 58 girls killed when a strike hit the Shajare Taibeh elementary school in Minab in southern Iran. While classes, the strike took place while classes were still in session on February 28th. UNICEF reported yesterday that at least 20 schools have been damaged. It says that schools are protected under international law and must be places of safety. Health facilities have also been impacted. The World Health Organization has verified 13 attacks impacting healthcare sites as of yesterday. And our colleagues at the UN Refugee Agency, which is the largest UN agency operating in Iran, tell us that according to their information, initial estimates say that 100,000 people are leaving Tehran and left Tehran in the first 2 days. Let me read that again. UNHCR says that initial estimates for authorities of 100,000 people leaving Tehran in the first 2 days of the crisis have now been surpassed. It adds, UNHCR adds that the country is home to 1.65 million people who are forced to flee mostly from Afghanistan, and an overwhelming number are seeking help and support. Turning to the situation in the occupied Palestinian territory, our humanitarian colleagues warn that civilians, including aid workers and civilian infrastructure, continue to be exposed to airstrikes, shelling, and shooting, resulting in reported casualties and damage. As we've said many times, under humanitarian law, civilians and civilian infrastructure must always be protected. As of yesterday, the Karim Shalom Karim Abu Salam crossing into Gaza remained operational, allowing the delivery of approved humanitarian supplies. All things, including Rafah, remains closed. Medical evacuations, the return of residents from abroad, and the rotation of humanitarian staff remain suspended due to that closure. Inside Gaza, our partners are continuing health services. They are prioritizing emergency care, maternal and neonatal services, management of communicable diseases, and trauma care. They're also closely managing fuel consumption and adjusting operations where needed. Yesterday, an oil tanker from our colleagues at UNOPS was hit on its way to collect urgently needed fuel for distribution inside Gaza. Thank God no one was injured. Jorge Moreira da Silva, the head of UNOPS, called for full investigation to this latest incident. He says that fuel must be allowed into Gaza consistently, delivery facilitated safely and without interruption to keep humanitarian operations going. In the West Bank, increased Israeli checkpoints and road gates since the regional escalation began continue to restrict Palestinians' access to services and workplaces. Emergency services and humanitarian work have also been impacted. Meanwhile, Operation Violence by Israeli settlers and Israeli security forces is continuing. That's resulting in casualties, in damage, and forced displacement. Yesterday, 8 Palestinian families, some 45 people, were forced to leave their community, community of Shakara in the Nablus governorate. This followed a series of attacks, threats, trespassing, and intimidation by Israeli settlers from a newly established illegal outpost. Israeli forces had declared the area a closed military zone. In response to this development, our partners have started providing mental health and psychosocial support, legal advice, shelter provisions, as well as livelihoods and cash assistance. Palestinians in the West Bank must be protected, and perpetrators must be held to account. Turning to the ongoing violence on the Afghan-Pakistan border, the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan continues to verify and record incidents of civilian casualties inside of Afghanistan as a result of cross-border armed clashes between Pakistan and the Afghanistan's de facto authorities. From late evening on February 20th.
All right, as you see, they're listening into this update from the UN United Nations, giving a humanitarian update on the Middle East conflict. We're going to slide away for a quick 2-minute commercial break. More on these comments when we return. Stay with us.
Whether you're a professional auto technician or working in your home garage, Harbor Freight has the storage solutions you need to stay organized at prices that can't be beat. Harbor Freight, your storage destination.
So I saw this app, DTF St. Louis.
What's DTF?
Down to...
Wow. What's your dream?
Thanks for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. Once again, that we do want to remind you that we are waiting to get the fee show us the dignified transfer process of the 6 U.S. soldiers who were killed in action while overseas. All 6 were a part of the Army Reserves, the Unit 103. There in Kuwait when this attack happened. It happened just one day after the United States launched Operation Epic Fury. And so we want you to know right now that that dignified transfer is ongoing, and we will not get any feeds of it live. Instead, we will be able to bring it to you tape playback once that comes into our newsroom. And so when that happens, we'll play it out for you in full without any commercial interruption, also without any commentary. Going to allow the moment to really speak and breathe for itself. And so that comes to us at any moment. Once we get that feed, we'll play it out for you. In the meantime, though, do want to continue on with our other top stories that we're following as we're keeping our eyes there on the Middle East. I do want to put up this live vantage point that we have there overlooking the skies as this camera is zooming in. We've been monitoring some of the strikes that are being passed back and forth between Hezbollah and Israel at this moment. We do know that this has happened throughout the last few days as the activity in the Middle East is ramping up amid Operation Epic Fury. And speaking of that, that does mean that there is a humanitarian portion that is also being monitored by the United Nations. I want to continue to play out these comments that we got just yesterday, giving us an update there in the region.
Between Pakistan and the Afghanistan's de facto authorities. From late evening on February 26th to yesterday, March 5th, the UN mission verified and recorded a total of 185 civilian casualties in Afghanistan, and with 56 civilians killed and a further 129 due to indirect fire and aerial attacks. 55% of recorded civilian casualties in this period were women and children. The mission reiterated its call to all parties to implement protocols to prevent civilian casualties and meet their obligations under international law. Today, UNHCR, some 115,000 people internally displaced in Afghanistan and some 3,000 in Pakistan. The situation in Afghanistan is already fragile, and any further large-scale returns of Afghan refugees will put immense pressure on basic services and host communities. UNHCR is delivering critical humanitarian assistance, including distribution of relief items and shelter support. For his part, our colleague Volker Turk, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, implored the Pakistan military and Afghan de facto security forces to end immediately their fighting and prioritize helping the millions who depend on aid and whose lives have been tormented by violent misery for so long. Turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, our colleagues at MONUSCO, the peacekeeping mission there, continue to support the government efforts to disarm and reintegrate former combatants. Since January of last year, in the northeastern province of Ituri, the mission, working in close collaboration with the International Organization for Migration, supported the disarmament, demobilization, community reintegration of almost 1,400 combatants from the Zaire armed group. The mission also reports that between 2023 and 2025, more than 18,000 people, including ex-combatants, women, and community members, have benefited from reintegration and recovery projects inside the DRC. These initiatives are part of the Disarmament, Demobilization, Community Recovery Stabilization Program, which is a Congolese national program, which the peacekeeping mission and UN agencies continue to support as one of its mandated tasks. And a quick update from our colleague Alexander De Croo, the administrator of UNDP, who's wrapping up his two-day visit to Jamaica. Mr. De Croo met with the Prime Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister responsible for water, environment, and climate resilience to discuss Hurricane Melissa's severe impact on communities, livelihoods, and the wider economy. Yesterday, Mr. De Croo visited communities in western Jamaica, where he met local residents who are rebuilding their livelihoods together with UNDP following the devastation of the hurricane. UNDP reaffirmed its commitment to recovery, including over $30 million in grant financing to support resilient livelihoods, ecosystems, and access to recovery finance. The Food and Agriculture Organization today released a new update showing that global food prices rose in February for the first time in months. The FAO price index averaged 125.3 points, up 0.9% from January, though still 1% below its level a year ago. In separate report released today, FAO estimates that 41 countries worldwide require external assistance for food, most of it in Africa, largely due to conflict and insecurity, as well as weather-related shocks in some cases. We have a quiz for you today because we now have 77 member states fully paid up. This country has the lowest population density of any sovereign nation in the world. No. What? No. What? Who said Mongolia? You know, I think we need to recognize Al Jazeera's cameraman.
All right, as you see, they're listening into a bit more of this press conference discussing the humanitarian aid amid the Middle East conflict, all while we are waiting to get the feed of the dignified transfer that is happening now in Dover, Delaware. Right away for our final 2-minute commercial break of the hour and continue on with these comments when we return. Thanks for staying with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. Let's listen into the final portion of this UN humanitarian update as they are in the question and answer session discussing what's happening there in the Middle East. This all as we are waiting to get that dignified transfer process, so that will be fed into our room shortly. Let's continue to listen in.
We'll give a question to Al Jazeera if they have one. All right, come on, Gabriel.
To Chris back there? The noon briefing is Chris's highlight of the day.
It's also my highlight, just to let you know.
Liar.
Sorry.
Steph, the Secretary General in his statement said that the situation in the Middle East could spiral beyond anyone's control. How could it get any more out of control than it is right now?
I mean, it doesn't take much imagination to see how this situation could get even worse, whether it's threatening the unity of certain member states, the continuing suffering of civilians, and also the deteriorating situation around the Strait of Hormuz, the impact that will have on globally. We're already seeing a spike in oil prices, and the impact that will have given our continued addiction to fossil fuels. I mean, I talked about, the FAO food price report FAO put out talking about how so many countries need assistance with food due to all sorts of reasons. One can only imagine the spike in energy prices will have on transport, food production, fertilizers. I mean, sadly, the situation could get much worse.
And follow up on Iran. As far as we know, the biggest mass casualty event of this war so far was in the first day when more than 50 children were killed in that school in Manab. The U.S. is not claiming responsibility yet. Israel isn't. Does the UN have the capability to get there, to get eyes on the ground or not?
At this point, we do not. But that does not mean that it does not mean there shouldn't be any sort of investigation right now. We've seen some very interesting media coverage in the last 24 hours. Edie.
A further follow-up on the Secretary General's statement. President Trump said this morning that Iran must surrender. The Secretary General's called for negotiations. What is he going to do to promote negotiations when one of the key players in this war wants one of the parties to surrender?
We will continue through the Secretary General will continue through his contacts to push for a return to serious negotiations. As I mentioned to Gabriel, situation is horrific, but could easily get worse, and the only way to settle this is through negotiations.
In question, UNOPS put out a statement this morning saying that an empty tanker that was heading to pick up fuel for Gaza was hit. Didn't say, it gave very, very few details. Can you please find out exactly where this took place? And it said the tanker was damaged. What's happened to the tanker?
Yeah, I'll find out. I mean, I think I mentioned it in my opening remarks. What we do know is that no one was hurt, but we'll try to get some more granularity for you.
Thank you, Stefan. Just one follow-up on Edie's question. How realistic is the prospect of a return to the negotiating table that the Secretary General is pushing for, given the fact that, given Trump's maximalist unconditional surrender and the death of Iran's supreme leader?
We're not in the prediction market here. For us, we have a goal, and I think the Secretary General has stated that goal. He's spoken to a number of member states who also share that goal, and we will continue to push in that direction.
One question on Iran has threatened to bomb Iraqi Kurdistan's facilities if Iranian Kurdish armed groups crossed the border into Iran. What is the Secretary General's message for Iran when they openly threaten?
We do not want to see more use of force. We do not more threats of the use of force. It is critical that this conflict does not extend even further into new areas and bringing in new countries into this conflict. And we've seen increased military action. We've also seen increased rhetoric, both of which run counter to what we would like to see. Before we bring in, sorry, Alex, and then I have something I forgot to read out.
Thanks, Steph. Quick follow-up on Iran. Could you please clarify how many UN members are there in Iran?
Yes. In fact, I can. The staffing for Iran is about 458 personnel, 27 nationals, about 458, which I think 27 internationals and about 430 nationals.
And quick follow-up on Gabriel's question. Is it possible for them just to go and check to that was hit, or is it unsafe?
I think our ability to move around in what is an active conflict zone is severely limited.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Let me read what I should have read, what I was just given to read. And that is also on the ongoing conflict, but as it relates to Azerbaijan. The foreign minister of Azerbaijan addressed a letter to the Secretary General yesterday in which he described a drone attack in Azerbaijan's Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic. The letter is being circulated to the General Assembly and the Security Council at Azerbaijan's request. We also take note that the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iran and Azerbaijan discussed the incident yesterday. We remain deeply concerned by this, particularly the injuries to civilians and the damage to civilian infrastructure. Secretary General wishes a speedy recovery to the injured. I'm going to go get Tom.
All right, so we are just listening into that UN humanitarian update amid the Middle East conflict. I did want to make sure we were able to bring all of that to you here on Live Now from Fox. Once again, we are waiting for this tape playback that we should be receiving any moment now, as President Trump has attended the dignified transfer there of U.S. soldiers arriving back here in the United States after they were killed last Sunday in a drone attack in Kuwait. And so what we're still waiting on at this moment is some of that tape playback that will be into our newsroom. At any moment, we haven't been able to get any indication how long that process will be. But we do know that we wanted to make sure that we're going to bring it to you in full without any commercial interruption once it does get underway. And so presidents do often attend events like this. A dignified transfer, once again, is not a formal ceremony. Instead, it is considered to be a solemn process, which is meant to ensure dignity, honor, and respect for fallen service members. That dignified transfer occurs when the remains of troops that were killed while supporting combat operations arrive back in the United States. And as today's will be, it's most often happening at Dover Air Force Base. Each transfer's case, I should say, is draped with an American flag as they are carefully carried from the aircraft to an awaiting transport vehicle by a carry team that's made up of service members from the fallen branch. A senior ranking officer also presides over that transfer. Once on the ground, though, the transfer cases are moved individually to waiting vehicles and transported to the mortuary facility at Dover Air Force Base. There, the Armed Forces Medical Examiner System does conduct positive identification and prepares those fallen service members for their final resting place. So it is a very solemn occasion that we're going to witness here on Live Now from Fox once that feed comes into our newsroom. Once it gets underway, we'll take you out to all without any commercial interruption, also without any commentary, allowing that moment to speak for itself. We are going to slide away for our first 2-minute commercial break of the hour. Much more on these top stories when we return. Stay with us. Thanks for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. Once again, we do want to remind you that we are waiting for this transfer, as that feed will be coming into our newsroom shortly. I do want to put those faces up on your screen as well, as those 6 U.S. soldiers are going to be there during that, and President Trump is also attending this transfer. I want to remind you that this is not considered to be a ceremony, but a solemn moment to acknowledge those who have given their lives in the theater of battle. And so see their names and faces on your screen. Once that gets underway, we'll bring you out to it here Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, though, do want to continue on with our top stories that we're following. Putting this back up on your screen, this is from Rapid Response with their names and faces as well. And as we're talking about Operation Epic Fury and all of the developments that have been coming into our newsroom, I do now want to bring in Rick Delatorre. He's a former CIA officer. Rick, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I first want to start with the very basics. You do understand the significance of some of these ceremonies that are happening, not ceremonies, but again, dignified transfer that we're waiting to come. Just to start off there, since that's what we're waiting to witness here on Live from Fox, I want to get some of your thoughts.
Oh, as you said, it is a solemn moment. It's something that unit commanders and members of the armed forces, sadly, it's part of the duty. When we leave no one behind, and once we do bring home, we want to make sure that they're greeted by family and friends and fellow soldiers, airmen, Marines, and make sure that treated with the dignity that they deserve.
Absolutely. And so once again, for folks who have been watching Live Now, wanting to see that moment, once it starts, we'll bring you out to it. But as we continue our conversation, I want to focus larger there on the conflict in the Middle East. And so I want to take folks out to this live vantage point that we have in Tel Aviv at this hour. We've been continuing to get these updates really minute by minute here, Rick, as updates are constantly coming in to let us know how things are going amid Operation Epic Fury. In fact, it was just announced a bit earlier that President Trump said that major combat operations against Iran, with massive joint U.S. and Israel strikes attacking and targeting military and government sites, are going to be ongoing. He put that out in a statement on Truth Social a bit earlier today. As we're watching all of this ramp up there in the region, what should we be paying attention to? The message that President Trump put out saying that he's intending to sort of increase these strikes that we've already seen happen there in Iran.
Correct. Right. So at this stage now, what we are achieving is air superiority over Iran. That will allow our allied fighters and aircraft to fly over Iran without any real risk from the ground, as we eliminate all those surface-to-air missile and weapon systems, and also their radar installations. Right now, the focus has been primarily long-range and medium-range missile systems, and also their portable mobile systems, but those are very quickly being depleted and destroyed by the Israelis and by the United States. So as we go now into rolling out additional general weapon systems, you see now B-52 bomber is in theater. That's an aircraft platform that's been around for a number of decades. Shortly after World War II and into our Cold War with the Soviet Union, it was a mainstay in nuclear deterrence. So that is a general purpose bombing type aircraft where they'll be able to drop what people call dumb bombs, but they're not really dumb bombs. They're just general purpose ammunitions. No real tech behind them except that they've been fitted with some navigation capabilities. You'll see that kind of heavy bombardment starting to occur over their Iranian military installations that they feel are still a threat. Once that IRT MOIS threat is eliminated, I think it will be a different position for Iran to reconsider and maybe perhaps take up the president's offer for a complete surrender.
And it'll be interesting to watch all of this unfold as we're talking about the conversation, or the conversations that are not really happening between our two nations. I want to point this out. Earlier today, Iran said that they are now responding to Operation Epic Fury with missile and drone attacks that are targeting Israel, U.S. bases there in the region, and multiple Gulf nations. Israel, though, is also continuing to strike back as well. But I want to focus on that portion. What is Iran mostly trying to do at this moment by striking some of those, what they are considering key targets in the region?
Right. So as they're quickly depleting their short range and medium range missile programs, missile systems, what you're going to see now is they're going to rely more and more on their drone technology, right? And these are basically very cheap drones compared to other kinds of weapon programs out there. The cost of these are probably, I don't know, $10,000-$20,000 compared to a $3, $4, $5 million U.S. missile. So what they do is they used to build about 100 of these a month. They program them with coordinates, and then they would just launch them all. And when you have a swarm of these flying, to strike a target, it confuses the radar the radar installations that can detect them, and then even when you try to eliminate, there's so many of them, all it takes is one or two to make it through and to hit its target. So they'll be relying more and more on that kind of technology as it rolls out. But then again, those will continue to deplete. And it's worth noting too that this is the first time the United States has taken a very similar to a drone, actually based on Iranian technology that we recovered years ago, and have been able to reverse engineer it, increase its accuracy by using up-to-date American technology, and use that drone back at. And a lot of the strategy and tactics now in this kind of drone warfare it really comes to us from the Ukrainians, who have now for a number of years now been fighting a drone war against the Russians. And with every evolution of these these drone campaigns, the Ukrainians would take the time to learn from the previous and see how they can improve accuracy and lethality. And they've been doing that now for many months, and we've been able to capitalize on that and use that to our advantage now too. So it's an interesting turn in warfare that we've never seen before in our lifetime.
And so that, I think that is sort of the thing that sticks out to me as well. Also getting images and videos, not only from state media sources, but folks who are able to even pull out their cameras and give us a view of what's happening, which I find to really bring a different element to this conflict. I do want to put this up on the screen from Phil Stewart there with Reuters. He's also doing some reporting there in the region. He says this: Iran's parliament speaker said today that the water desalination plant there on this specific island was carried out with the support from one of the air bases in a southern neighboring country. He did not name the country at this time, but did say that the crime will receive a proportionate funds. When it comes to this sort of conflict spreading to the region in a larger sense, is this something that the Middle East is prepared for? Of course, we've seen conflict happen in many throughout the years there, but this does seem to be escalating to a different scale at this point.
Right. Iran made a horrific military strategic blunder when it decided to attack its neighbors. It felt incorrectly that by doing so, somehow that would cause the leadership of the Arab countries to turn against the United States and include them into some greater war against Israel and the United States. And obviously that did not occur, and it infuriated them. What you see is that most of the leadership of the Arab countries, and I've met with many of them, privately tell you that they have nothing to do with Iran. They welcome Israeli and U.S. help in eliminating the Iranian threat because they just can't be trusted. But sadly, the reality is that there are some, within those countries, in the general population, that look at Iran differently. And so these leaders have to kind of balance that. They don't want to come out actively arguing against Iran or, actively showing that they want to hurt Iran in some way because they're working the internal dynamics within their population. So when this occurred, really what it did, it just strengthened what the efforts of the United States and Israel conducting. And that's really based on the great work behind the Abraham Accords, something that was probably mostly on paper and cooperation and based on trade and commerce, as could actually turn into like Middle Eastern NATO. An attack on one is an attack on all. And I think we'll see that now at this stage, most of those Arab countries would like to see the Iranian threat just completely eliminated.
Rick, you so casually mentioned there the Abraham Accords, but that was really one of the cornerstones of how diplomacy has been seen there in the Middle East. For folks who are not familiar with maybe why that piece of legislation was so important to seeing where we are today, sort of go back in history and explain that one.
Right, for up until very recently, what has happened is Israel was obviously considered the pariah within the Arab world, and most, if not all, the countries, with the exception early on with Egypt back in the early '80s, didn't even recognize Israel as a country, and many felt that Israel should have just be eliminated, and in fact actually had wars over this throughout the '60s and again in the '70s. During the Abraham Accords, what that did was that they kind of caused other countries like Jordan, Egypt, and others to recognize Israel's right to existence and to just basically move on as a trading partners, and help each other's economies and focus on democracy. Until just about the horrific events a few years ago when Hamas invaded Israel from Gaza and caused the most recent war. Even Saudi Arabia was going to consider joining the Abraham Accords. That put a real pause on everything, right? But now that Gaza's been resolved, now you're seeing an interest by the Saudis to join the Abraham Accords and to also accept Israel as a legitimate country and one that should be respected in the region. So this is the closest we've been to Middle Eastern peace. Recently, though, it's been Iran who keeps meddling. Iran, it's fun.